Chapter 758. Fu Moyan's fingers were trembling. His mind was completely filled with the words second level perfected immortal. Second level perfected immortal, second level immortal. Fu Moyan tried his best to breathe, but he couldn't calm his mind. He only had one thought now. That was, the crystal in his hand must not be taken away by others. After spending a few years, he still couldn't find the bronze token, nor did he get the opportunity behind the bronze token. In the end, he went out to the outer realm and unexpectedly obtained such a benefit. Although in Fu Moyan's opinion, the opportunity behind the bronze token might be related to the secret of the Emperor of Heaven. Compared to it, the second-level immortal crystal in his hand was much worse. But what he had to know was, behind the bronze token might be the opportunity to become the Emperor of Heaven, but that was just a guess and didn't have much practical evidence. Perhaps the reason why Qin Shujian became the Emperor of Heaven wasn't because of the bronze token, but because of other reasons. In comparison, the crystal of the second-level immortal was a real benefit. If a crystal of the second-level perfected immortal was exchanged, it could be exchanged for at least 10,000 perfected immortal merit points. It was different from the merit points of other realms. There was a range of perfected immortal merit points. The lowest was 10,000 points, and the highest was 1,000,000 points. The crystal in my hand is from the second-level immortal. If I exchange it, it can be exchanged for at least 20,000 perfected immortal merit points. Fu Moyan forced himself to calm down. Looking at the crystal in his hand, his eyes kept changing. There were 9 levels of perfected immortals. There was no need to think about 1,000,000 perfected immortal merit points. That was the treatment that only a 9th-level perfected immortal could give. As for the second-level perfected immortal, it was the weakest after the first-level perfected immortal. In this way, the crystal of the second-level perfected immortal could only be exchanged for a few tens of thousands of merit points at most. 100,000 perfected immortal merit points can be exchanged for 1,000,000 Devis merit points. With 1,000,000 Devis merit points, I can directly exchange for a rule and become a perfected immortal on the spot. But it's impossible to rely on the crystal of the second-level perfected immortal to exchange for 100,000 perfected immortal merit points. Fu Moyan's mind raced. If he could exchange for 100,000 true immortal merit points, he would have done it without any hesitation. Then, he would have exchanged them for 1,000,000 true immortal merit points. At that time, he would be able to become a true immortal expert on the spot. But that wouldn't do. The crystals of a level 2 immortal were not enough for him to exchange for regulations. Thinking of this, Fu Moyan went through the memories in his mind again. Now that all players had received the exchange booklet from the Heavenly Court, the corresponding information was stored in their memories. It was just that he didn't read it often, so he couldn't recall too much. He opened the True Immortal Merit Points exchange page. Fu Moyan began to search for suitable items to exchange for. There weren't many things that could be exchanged with True Immortal Merit Points because there weren't many things that experts at this level needed. As such, on the True Immortal Merit Points page, there were only a few dozen items that could be exchanged. Ranked first was naturally the Heavenly Court's deity position. Then, there were some heavenly treasures that Fu Moyan had never heard of, some pills, and some formations that he had never heard of before. Insights of a Saint Realm blacksmith, insights of a Saint Realm array master, insights of a Saint Realm alchemist. Fu Moyan looked at the insights of the Saint Realm, and then looked at the exchange value at the end. Fu Moyan felt stifled. All of them started at 100,000 true immortal merit points. In other words, with his current conditions, he could at most exchange for one of them. No, he couldn't even exchange for any of them. Saint Realm, I remember hearing someone say that it's the realm after the third realm. If you can break through to the Saint Realm, you can be considered a true immortal expert in disguise. It's just an insight. It's obvious how difficult it is to directly cultivate to a true immortal. If I had 100,000 true immortal merit points, I would probably use them to exchange for regulations. Fu Moyan shook his head slightly. To him, exchanging for these insights was useless. As for the other things like the Zhou Tian Great Star Formation and the 9 Transformation Golden Pill, they all started at a few 100,000 true immortal merit points, making people dizzy just by looking at them. In fact, he could even exchange for stars. Exchanging for stars, what's the use of it? Could it be that cultivating on stars will be faster? Fu Moyan complained helplessly. He realized the things that could be exchanged for with true immortal merit points weren't of much use to him. However, it wasn't completely useless. It was just that with tens of thousands of merit points, it was impossible to exchange for anything. But very soon, Fu Moyan's attention landed on the cultivation technique at the back. The upper part of the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture, the exchange price was 10,000 true immortal merit points. The middle part of the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture, the exchange price was 50,000 true immortal merit points. The lower part of the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture, the exchange price was 100,000 true immortal merit points. A cultivation technique. It was divided into 3 parts. The most basic ones were at least 10,000 true immortal merit points. Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture. Fu Moyan's eyes flickered. Something that could appear on the true immortal merit points exchange page was definitely a powerful cultivation technique. Otherwise, it would definitely not appear on it. The upper part of the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture requires 10,000 true immortal merit points. It should be a supreme cultivation technique that leads straight to the true immortal realm. If I can exchange for it, it won't be a loss. Fu Moyan was calculating the gains and losses. If players wanted to increase their strength, experience wasn't enough. They also needed a corresponding cultivation technique. The level of the cultivation technique had increased. Only then could one's realm correspondingly increase. Therefore, if he only had experience points and didn't have a cultivation technique, he could only look at it and not eat it. This was also the reason why Fu Moyan didn't consider directly absorbing the true immortal crystal in his hand. If there were no cultivation technique restrictions, he could directly absorb the true immortal crystal. Even if he didn't break through to the true immortal realm on the spot, he could at least break through to the 10th level of the Heaven Being realm. Looks like I have to exchange for merit points. Fu Moyan put the crystal into his storage ring, then pushed open the door and walked out. Exchange for merit points. Then, exchange for the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture. As for the remaining merit points, he would use them to exchange for crystals that could increase his strength with others. He believed, with the quality of the true immortal merit points, if he threw them out for exchange, even the cultivators of the myriad races would scramble for them. Because the true immortal merit points could only be obtained by killing true immortals. For the cultivators of the myriad races, there were only a few experts who had truly broken through to the true immortal realm. Moreover, breaking through to the true immortal realm didn't necessarily mean that one could kill the true immortal void demon. If they really fought, it was not certain who would win. If that was the case, the scarcity of the true immortal merit points could be imagined. Just as he walked out of the guest room, Fu Moyan's path was blocked by someone. There were dozens of players blocking the way. Among them were Lu Liang, Shen Wenyao, and the others. Shen Wenyao had already been resurrected once, and her broken arms had also been restored. However, the way she looked at Fu Moyan was filled with anger and resentment, as if she wanted to skin him alive. Conflicts are prohibited in the city. Are you looking down on the heavenly court? Facing the many players blocking his way, Fu Moyan wasn't afraid at all. He looked at them and sneered. The scene in front of him. He had expected it. Anyway, there were experts from the heavenly court in the city, so Fu Moyan wasn't afraid that anyone would dare to make a move without permission. Moreover, with his strength, he was also one of the top players. It wouldn't be easy to snatch the crystal from his hands. Lu Liang said coldly. That crystal is the harvest of the team. It's not appropriate for you to take it all by yourself. Why don't you take it out and share it equally? Share it equally? Are you awake? Fu Moyan looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. With that, he directly walked out. No matter how many players blocked his way, he completely ignored them. Suddenly, some players were knocked away. A good dog doesn't block the way. If you're not convinced, attack. I'll take all of them. Fu Moyan laughed arrogantly, his voice full of carefree. Some players wanted to attack, but considering the experts from the heavenly court in the city, they suppressed the impulse in their hearts. However, they didn't retreat. Someone said in a deep voice, Fu Moyan, are you going to stay in this city forever? We'll be waiting for you outside the city. There are so many people, how many can you waste? Why don't you just hand over the thing? Let's get rich peacefully and don't ruin our relationship. Get lost! Facing such a threat, Fu Moyan's face turned cold, and he spat out a simple word. Hearing that, anger flashed across that player's face. Okay, I'll see how long you can last. His voice was filled with coldness. Fu Moyan had some reputation among the players, but it was of no use. If the news of him having a treasure leaked out, it was destined to be snatched by others. Those who surrounded him now were almost all the leaders or representatives of the various teams, and they all had a lot of connections and forces behind them. It could be said that the dozens of people now could involve thousands or tens of thousands of people behind them. With so many people, it wasn't difficult to surround Fu Moyan. Fu Moyan glanced at the crowd and walked directly to the Heavenly Court branch. He didn't care about the threats of these people at all. As long as he exchanged for the crystals and obtained the cultivation resources, he could at least become a heavenly being expert, and not just an ordinary heavenly being expert. When that time came, it was wishful thinking for the players in front of him to want to deal with him. The place where Fu Moyan lived was some distance away from the Heavenly Court branch. Along the way, there were also many players who followed him openly. At this moment, the news of Fu Moyan obtaining the treasure crystal had almost spread out. Many people knew. The other party had at least one almighty level crystal in his hands, and it was possible that it was even higher. If anyone could get the crystals, they would be able to save decades of hard work. Not only that, they could also become the first among all the players. Not many people could resist such a temptation. Someone wants to exchange for the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture? Qin Shijian's expression changed. He put the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture up casually, purely because he didn't want the true immortal merit points page to be too empty. Experts who really broke through to the true immortal realm all had their own paths to walk, and they wouldn't exchange for such a cultivation technique. Cultivators below the true immortal realm. It was possible to cultivate the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture. However, the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture was expensive, and he deliberately divided it into 3 parts. If he wanted to exchange for the entire scripture, he would need 160,000 true immortal merit points. Such true immortal merit points could be exchanged for more than one deity position. Even if there were worthy juniors among the true immortals of the 10,000 races, they wouldn't spend more than 100,000 merit points to exchange for the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture. Without exchanging for the complete version of the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture, it was also impossible to exchange for a part of it. With merit points, wouldn't it be better to exchange for a deity position? There was no need to exchange for an incomplete cultivation technique. Qin Shijian couldn't figure out who was so rich and imposing to exchange for the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture. Reporting to the Emperor of Heaven, not long ago, a mutant exchanged a second-level Immortal's crystal for merit points, so he wants to exchange for the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture. The true Immortal bowed, then took out the crystal and handed it over with both hands. A second-level Immortal's crystal. Qin Shijian's heart skipped a beat. With a thought, he saw the crystal leave the other party's hand and fall directly in front of him. A second-level Immortal's crystal, player! Qin Shijian quickly thought of the true power that had appeared not long ago. With the strength of the current players, it was impossible to defeat a true immortal. Even if all the players attacked together, there was no way to kill a true immortal. At that level, one couldn't rely on numbers to win. Under the premise of numbers, one also needed to have a certain level of quality. Tens of billions of players. Even if they were all in the God martial arts realm, they wouldn't be able to deal with a true immortal. Unless there were tens of billions of celestials, then it was a different story. But I let you get a bargain. Qin Shijian's expression was subtle as he sat on the throne without moving, suppressing the players. This was what he had always done, although the merit points exchange system was open now. In fact, the things that could be exchanged for in the god martial arts realm were all very poor, or rather, the price-performance ratio was very low. Even if they exchanged for it, it wouldn't be of much help to the players' prospects. There were many things. They were all displayed for the players to see, purely to trick them. The players who could really exchange for it, out of 100 million people, didn't know if one succeeded. This was like putting a carrot in front of a donkey. The donkey couldn't eat it, but it would be hooked by the carrot. Now, there were players who took advantage of it. To exchange for the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture was completely out of Qin Shijian's expectations. However, this extremely small probability had happened, and he didn't intend to go back on his word. No matter what. He was just a player. Even if he gave the complete Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture to him, there wouldn't be any trouble, not to mention that this was not the complete Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture. I will deal with this matter. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You can leave. Yes, Emperor of Heaven. The genuine immortal bowed and left. In the sea of consciousness, Godslayer's doubtful voice sounded. Players also have the means to kill genuine immortals. It's impossible. The word player. He learned it from the conversation between Qin Shijian and Chu Kuangtu and the others. Godslayer didn't quite understand the meaning of the word player, but he felt that it was better than using the term mutant. It's not the players who killed it. It should be the Devil King who possessed the players, and then the Devil King was killed by the real power in the players. Qin Shijian shook his head and casually explained. Players didn't have the chance to kill the Devil King, but their real power could. Even the weakest real power was highly toxic to experts below the Tao Fruit realm. A mere Devil King dared to touch real power without permission. That was no different from suicide. It was precisely because of how terrifying true strength was that only a portion of Tao fruits would survive every time the universe collapsed. As for those cultivators who weren't Tao fruits, even if they had the protection of experts, they still couldn't escape the fate of death. Let's go and take a look. Qin Shijian's body suddenly disappeared from the throne. At the heaven and earth passage, a genuine immortal was guarding it. Emperor of Heaven! Yes. Qin Shijian nodded and directly stepped into the passage. On the other side, at the heavenly court branch, Fu Moyan stood there, waiting for the people from the heavenly court to arrive. In his hand, he was holding a jade talisman tightly. Until now, Fu Moyan's mind couldn't calm down. The merit points that he had actually exchanged were much more than he had expected. Originally, Fu Moyan thought that the crystal of a second-level immortal could only be exchanged for about 20,000 to 30,000 genuine immortal merit points. In the end, when he actually exchanged for it, only then did he realize. A crystal of a second-level immortal could be exchanged for 50,000 genuine immortal merit points. Now, while waiting for the experts from the heavenly court to arrive, Fu Moyan was silently calculating how he should use such a huge sum of money. 50,000 genuine immortal merit points. If he used it well, it was equivalent to a pig standing in the wind, ready to fly at any time. With so many resources thrown in, he would definitely be able to break through to a very high realm. Suddenly, Fu Moyan didn't know when, but he suddenly realized that a figure in a green robe had appeared in front of him. He instinctively raised his head and saw that familiar face. He was momentarily stunned. Soon, Fu Moyan reacted and hurriedly bowed. Greetings, Emperor of Heaven! You're the one who wants to exchange for the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture, right? Qin Shijian looked at Fu Moyan, and the corresponding memories surfaced in his mind. To be honest, if it was in the past, he wouldn't remember who Fu Moyan was at all. But now that he really met him, the memories of the past naturally emerged. At Qin Shijian's level, having a photographic memory was normal. Anything that he had experienced, as long as it was triggered, he could immediately recall it. Come with me! Qin Shujian turned and walked towards the second floor. Seeing this, Fu Moyan didn't dare to hesitate and hurriedly followed behind him. In the square, many people looked at Fu Moyan's back view with a strange expression, not knowing what he was talking about. In their opinion, Fu Moyan just bowed to the air, then said something and walked towards the second floor. One had to know. In the entire Heavenly Court branch, only the square on the first floor allowed anyone to enter and leave. However, the second level was guarded by experts. But what shocked these people was that when Fu Moyan walked up to the second floor, no experts stopped him at all. Seeing this, suddenly, some players' hearts moved, and they also walked towards the second floor. However, the moment these players stepped onto the second step, they were killed by a terrifying force. Immediately after, an indifferent voice came out from the mouth of the guarding expert. Without permission, anyone who steps in without permission dies. P.S. Requesting monthly votes. Chapter 759. On the second floor of the Heavenly Court branch. Compared to the spacious square on the first floor, the second floor was much narrower. It was just a simple living room. However, after stepping into the second level, Fu Moyan felt a mysterious ripple faintly appear around him, causing his originally agitated heart to completely calm down. Have a seat. In the living room, Qin Shujian sat in the main seat. Fu Moyan cupped his fists and replied, "Thank you, Heavenly Emperor." After saying that, he sat down on the chair. After so many years since the game started, the original contempt for the characters in the game had long disappeared. Facing the biggest boss in the eyes of the players, the current Emperor of Heaven, Fu Moyan didn't dare to cross the line. After all, if he really angered Qin Shujian, the other party had 100 ways to make him unable to survive in the boundless world. No. Not only would he be unable to survive, but he could also be wiped out. If he was wiped out in the game, then he was almost useless in reality. Everyone could improve their strength in the game, and then affect reality, but he couldn't rely on the game to improve. As time passed, the gap would naturally widen. Once the gap was widened, it would be even more difficult to make up for it. Therefore, the Emperor of Heaven in front of him absolutely couldn't be offended. Once he offended him, he wouldn't be able to survive in a minute. The situation was stronger than the person, no matter where it was. "Let me have a look at your jade talisman," Qin Shujian said. His gaze fell on Fu Moyan, giving the other party a lot of pressure. As for Fu Moyan, Qin Shujian didn't have a deep impression of him. When he was the leader of Liangshan's stronghold, he had killed many players. Fu Moyan didn't die many times in his hands, only 8 or 10 times. He didn't feel much about it. Hearing that, Fu Moyan immediately took out the jade talisman and then stood up, not knowing whether to hand it over or what to do. Qin Shujian simply waved his hand. The jade talisman left Fu Moyan's hand and flew towards him. Holding the jade talisman, Qin Shujian instantly received the information contained within the jade talisman. Then, he handed the jade talisman back. "Don't be shy, sit down." Yes." Fu Moyan felt like he didn't know what to say at all, so he could only follow her instructions and sit down. In front of the Emperor of Heaven. From the beginning to the end, he felt a great pressure. Regarding this, Fu Moyan could no longer connect Qin Shujian to the former bandit leader. The reason for that was because the disparity between the two was simply too great. "You want to exchange for the Purple Heaven Divine Lightning Scripture?" "That's right. I would like to exchange for the upper part of the Purple Heaven Divine Lightning Scripture." Fu Moyan nodded and replied. Qin Shujian nodded slightly, but did not reply immediately. The living room instantly fell silent. Fu Moyan looked at the expressionless Qin Shujian and didn't know what to say for a moment. He could only remain silent like the other party. Time slowly passed. Qin Shujian sat there motionless. A long time later. Only then did he say calmly, There is no problem with the exchange of the purple firmament godly thunder scripture. According to the rules, the exchange of the upper part of the purple firmament godly thunder scripture requires 10,000 true immortal merit points. But you have to be clear that only when you get the complete purple heaven divine lightning scripture can you use it to break through to the true immortal realm. If you only exchange for the upper part, you can cultivate to the third level of the celestial being at most. The upper part is the third level of the celestial being, the middle part is the sixth level of the celestial being, and the lower part is the 10th level of the celestial being. When you reach perfection, you can naturally break through to the true immortal realm. The third level of the celestial being. Fu Moyan's expression changed. He thought that the purple heaven divine lightning scripture was a true immortal realm cultivation method on the true immortal merit points page. If it was only the upper part. Not to mention cultivating to the true immortal realm, at least cultivating to the 7th level of the celestial being realm would not be a problem. But now, it sounded like that wasn't the case. Qin Shijian's words. It surprised Fu Moyan and completely disrupted his original plan. So, do you still have plans to exchange for it? Qin Shijian asked. Fu Moyan came back to his senses and hesitated for a moment. Can I consider it? Sure, I'll give you 2 hours. Qin Shijian didn't rush him. He simply waved his hand and a steaming teacup appeared on the table beside him. He held the teacup and tasted the tea, looking elegant and indifferent. At the side, Fu Moyan fell into deep thought. He was considering what Qin Shijian said. 10,000 true immortal merit points to exchange for a cultivation method that could only be cultivated to the third level of the celestial being realm. Under normal circumstances, 50,000 true immortal merit points was enough to cultivate to the almighty realm. If he exchanged for the purple heaven divine lightning scripture now, he could only break through to the third level of the celestial being realm. Logically speaking, Fu Moyan should leave directly. However, he had other concerns in his heart. Everything was expensive for a reason. Thinking of this, Fu Moyan asked, is the purple heaven divine lightning scripture different from other cultivation methods? Of course it's different. Qin Shijian smiled faintly and put down the teacup. 10,000 true immortal merit points is enough to exchange for a complete celestial cultivation method. But the purple heaven divine lightning scripture is different. If you can cultivate to the 7th level of the celestial being realm, you will have the initial strength of the celestial being realm. If you can cultivate to the peak of the celestial being realm, ordinary 2nd level immortals won't be your match. If you can become an immortal with this, even if you're a 1st level immortal, you'll be able to match an ordinary 4th level immortal. Even if you're only at the 3rd level of the celestial being realm, you'll be able to match an expert at the 6th level of the celestial being realm. Cultivation isn't just about what's in front of you. In the long run, it's better to seek the purple heaven divine lightning scripture. Hearing Qin Shijian's explanation, Fu Moyan finally understood why the purple heaven divine lightning scripture was so expensive. Celestial being realm. A 1st level immortal was comparable to a 4th level immortal. In this way, the other celestial cultivation methods couldn't be compared. However, with his current merit points, he could only exchange for the first part. If he wanted to gather enough merit points to exchange for the other 2 parts, it would obviously be very difficult. He wouldn't be so lucky to pick up a perfected immortal's crystal every time. If he didn't replenish his merit points, he might have to stay at the 3rd level of the celestial being realm for the rest of his life. Seeing Fu Moyan's hesitant expression, Qin Shijian said calmly, actually, it's not impossible for you to get the complete purple heaven divine lightning scripture. As long as you're willing to work for me, I can give you the complete purple heaven divine lightning scripture. After all, after you get the purple heaven divine lightning scripture, no one in the real world will be your match. Buzz! Qin Shijian's words set off huge waves in Fu Moyan's heart. At this moment, his expression had completely changed. There was uncontrollable fear in his eyes as he looked at this Emperor of Heaven. That feeling. It made Fu Moyan have the urge to escape. The real world. The other party knew about the existence of the real world. This news was completely out of his expectations. It was like when he was playing a game and talking to an NPC, the NPC suddenly told him that he actually knew everything. This kind of feeling was simply too horrifying. Fu Moyan really wanted to escape, but he didn't dare to because he couldn't escape at all. It was just like facing that demon king. In front of such an existence, even suicide was a difficult thing to do, let alone escape. God, Emperor of Heaven, what do you mean by this? What do you mean? Fu Moyan stuttered as he spoke. He tried hard to calm himself down, but he couldn't do it at all. The faint smile on Qin Shujian's face had disappeared, and it was replaced by indifference. I know a lot of things. For example, I know that you came from the real world. For example, I know that you're actually called players. For example, I'm just an NPC or a boss in your eyes. For example, why you players can't die. For example, how to completely kill you players. We are well aware of all these matters. A calm and indifferent voice. In Fu Moyan's ears, it was as cold as winter. He didn't know if what Qin Shujian said was true or false. If it was in the past, Fu Moyan would never believe that there was real death in the game. However, hearing such words from an NPC, he hesitated. Players! The real world. Completely killing players. When the three pieces of information were linked together, the credibility was very high. In an instant, Fu Moyan's body trembled, and the blood in his body froze. It was as if he would suffocate at any time. When he saw Qin Shujian's indifferent expression, he forced a smile on his face. I have no grievances with the Emperor of Heaven. Why would the Emperor of Heaven kill me? There are many killings without grievances. Just like how you players wantonly killed the creatures of this world. In the past, you didn't think so much. Killing is killing. In your eyes, this world is just an illusion, so any kind of slaughter is to be expected. Since you players can kill the creatures of this world, it's reasonable for me to kill you. Qin Shujian shook his head, and his expression was extremely indifferent. That emotionless tone made Fu Moyan's body tremble even more. They would die. They would really die. No one was unafraid of death. As long as there were enough benefits in the game, players wouldn't be afraid of death because they wouldn't really die. Once they really died, even if there were benefits in front of them, they would still be afraid. At this moment, Fu Moyan was already regretting it. He shouldn't have come to exchange for merit points. No, he shouldn't have exchanged for the Purple Heaven Divine Lightning Scripture. If he didn't exchange for the Purple Heaven Divine Lightning Scripture, why would the Emperor of Heaven be attracted here? If he didn't attract the Emperor of Heaven, he wouldn't have known such explosive news. This was the first time. Fu Moyan regretted knowing too much. Don't worry, I won't kill you. Qin Shujian saw that the effect was almost there. His expression softened a little, and it relieved some of the pressure on Fu Moyan. After all, you killed the Void Demon. To the Heavenly Court, you are a hero. Why would I do anything to you? Not only will I not kill you, but I will also give you a chance. A chance for you to reach the peak. I just don't know if you are willing to accept this mission. Mission? Fu Moyan was much calmer now. He also understood one thing. With Qin Shujian's strength, it would be easy for him to kill him. There was no need to waste so much time talking. Since the other party didn't do anything, then there was only one explanation. The other party didn't want to kill him, or he was still useful. Therefore, after hearing Qin Shujian's mission, Fu Moyan didn't immediately refuse, but he also didn't immediately agree. He was considering. Fu Moyan had a hunch. This mission might bring about a great change in his life. What is the mission that the Emperor of Heaven mentioned? What benefits can I get? Fu Moyan asked. The opportunity to reach the peak was too vague. What was the peak? Was it a heavenly being or a true immortal? What was the probability of grasping the so-called opportunity? For such a thing, he wanted to ask clearly. Qin Shujian asked. What do you think it should be like to reach the summit? While talking, he paused and asked. What is the cultivation level of the strongest person in the real world? If you become the strongest person in the real world, is it considered reaching the peak? If you become the strongest person, it is naturally considered reaching the peak. Fu Moyan's hands, which were folded in his sleeves, unconsciously clenched. The strongest person in the real world. He didn't know what the strength of the strongest person should be, but he could make some general guesses from the side details. Qin Shijian said, "The heavenly being is just the beginning, and the true immortal is just the beginning. The real peak is not as simple as you think. If you are willing to accept this mission, then I will give you a chance to break through to the realm above the true immortal realm, and even live forever. When that time comes, even if the sea turns into mulberry fields and mulberry seas, it still won't leave a single mark on your body." Huff, huff! Fu Moyan's breathing gradually became rapid. Live forever. Surviving through thousands of tribulations. He had never thought about these things. For Fu Moyan, the heavenly being and the true immortal were the highest levels he knew. As for the higher realms, it was not something a small god martial arts realm player could understand. A moment later, Fu Moyan forced himself to calm down, swallowed his saliva, and asked, "There are so many players. Why did the Emperor of Heaven look for me alone?" "Because you are lucky." "Lucky?" Fu Moyan was stunned. "That was a reason?" Qin Shijian nodded and said, "Luck is very important. You were lucky to be able to get the crystal of a level 2 immortal when you were in the god martial arts realm. In addition, you were able to successfully exchange the crystal and stand in front of me. I didn't kill you, so your luck was even better. So I will give you a chance. It was a chance to live a long life. If you refuse, then I will find someone else, because your good luck has been used up." It had to be said. Qin Shijian's explanation was very powerful. Although it sounded a little far-fetched, Fu Moyan could understand it. He was sure. Once he refused, the other party would make a move to kill him. The so-called good luck was used up, and it was also a disguised threat. After a while, Fu Moyan seemed to have made a decision. He took a deep breath and his gaze fell on Qin Shijian again. "What can I do for the Emperor of Heaven?" "It's very simple. I will provide you with cultivation methods and resources. In exchange, you need to help me kill some people in the real world." "The Emperor of Heaven also has enemies?" Fu Moyan was stunned for a moment, then he asked in confusion. "If the Emperor of Heaven can kill players completely, then he can do it directly in the boundless world. Why do you need me to do it for him? Could it be?" The other party couldn't really kill players, so what he said before was just to scare him. Qin Shijian saw the suspicion in his heart, but his expression was calm. "There are some things that I can't do. This involves the secret between the two worlds. I want to kill a lot of people. If I act recklessly, it will cause some changes. It's not a problem to kill a few people, but that won't be of much use. So I need you to do it. As my sword, I will give you a chance to live forever in the future." To this, Fu Moyan was half convinced. After pondering for a moment, he asked again, "Can I ask why the Emperor of Heaven wants me to do this? You just talked about the secret between the two worlds. What kind of secrets are there?" "Of course, I'm just curious. If the Emperor of Heaven thinks you can say it, then say it. If you can't say it, I understand." In the guest hall, Qin Shijian looked at him deeply, then said calmly, "This is a matter of the heavenly Tao. You don't have the qualifications to participate now. If you help me kill some people, I will give you the corresponding benefits. After all, in the real world, everyone can enter the boundless world. If you want to stand out among so many players, the possibility is very small. Moreover, the realms after the celestial being aren't as simple as you think. They can't be directly increased with experience points. The stronger the people in the real world are, the less peaceful it will be. If your strength isn't enough, you might not be able to hold on until then. You will completely fall under the rolling tide. Don't say that I'm an alarmist. There should be a lot of changes in the real world. Chaos is rising. As long as you're smart, you can see that. You don't have to think too much. You are useful to me. At the same time, I can give you the benefits you want. Naturally, the cooperation will be achieved. Moreover, I can see that you are not the kind of person who is righteous. So what if you are a world traitor? What's more, our goal is not to destroy your side. That level of competition will not affect you. Don't worry. World traitor. Fu Moyan's mouth twitched twice. This was the first time he heard of this word. But after thinking about it seriously, if the game world and the real world were two equal worlds, if he accepted the mission, there would be no difference between him and a world traitor. Could it be that the Emperor of Heaven is very good at judging people? I don't know if I'm good at judging people, but I won't be wrong. Qin Shujian smiled meaningfully. Immediately, the smile disappeared. I'll give you 15 minutes to consider. Do you want to work for me and have the opportunity to live forever, or return to the group of players and become a wave of tens of billions of players that can be drowned at any time? The choice is up to you. After Qin Shujian finished speaking, he casually picked up the teacup by the side. Seeing this, Fu Moyan also fell into deep thought. But just as Qin Shujian said, righteousness was not important to him. The so-called righteousness. There were not enough benefits to come. I'll accept this mission. Chapter 760. Very good. Qin Shujian smiled slightly. With a flip of his hand, something that looked like a jade stone suddenly appeared in his palm. After the jade stone appeared, it was held by an invisible big hand and landed in front of Fu Moyan. Seeing this, Fu Moyan reached out and caught the jade stone. It felt warm in his hand. This thing is called Tianyu. It is a treasure that I personally refined. You can take it into your sea of consciousness and bring it into the real world. Whenever there is a target to kill, Tianyu will give a reaction. At that time, you just need to act according to the instructions given by Tianyu. While talking, Qin Shujian paused for a moment and said, Remember, Tianyu can't be taken out of your sea of consciousness, especially when you return to the real world. Otherwise, you will be sensed by the existence in the real world. With your strength, in front of that existence, even an ant is not enough. Even a simple thought from such an existence could easily wipe you out. At the same time, Tianyu is also a bridge for me to communicate with you. If you betray me, Tianyu will directly take your life. After all, I don't see people 100% accurately, but I can completely erase them when I see the wrong person. To put it simply, Tianyu was equivalent to a monitor, monitoring Fu Moyan's every move. Qin Shujian wouldn't be so naive to think that it was just a simple deal and the other party would really work for him wholeheartedly. To ensure that there would be no problems, a certain amount of protection was still necessary. On the side, Fu Moyan held the crystal in his hand, but his expression was somewhat subtle. Not everyone could get used to having a time bomb in their mind. But he refused. It was also impossible. In the end, he obediently put Tianyu into his sea of consciousness. From the moment he entered the living room, Fu Moyan knew that there was no way out for him. Either cooperate obediently. Otherwise, it would be a dead end. After seeing him put Tianyu into his sea of consciousness, Qin Shujian also showed a gentle smile. Actually, you don't have to worry. Tianyu's surveillance is only one of its functions. Its biggest function is to find the target and communicate with you and me. In this universe, you have my heavenly jade, so I can protect you from death to a large extent. Even in the real world, when necessary, Tianyu could still be of use. However, if it really came to that point, you might have to leave the real world for good. Because if you use the heavenly jade, the existences in the real world will definitely discover you. At that time, as long as you come back as soon as possible, I can save your life. Hearing this, Fu Moyan's chest heaved violently. He finally understood. The so-called Tianyu was a double-edged sword. If he didn't use it well, Tianyu would take his life. If he used it well and had Tianyu, it was equivalent to having an extra life, a real life. Fu Moyan subconsciously sensed Tianyu in his consciousness and then said, Emperor of Heaven, don't worry. Since I've already accepted the mission, there's no possibility of me going back on my word. That would be for the best. Qin Shijian nodded. Then, he raised his hand and a stream of light entered Fu Moyan's mind. Immediately, an unfamiliar memory surged. As a reward, I'll teach you the upper part of the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture for free. As for the middle and lower parts of the scripture, I'll teach them to you when the time is right. In addition, the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture is different from other cultivation methods. If you want to improve, every level needs heavenly thunder to temper your body. Only by surviving the thunder tribulation can you safely advance. If you can't, you'll die under the thunder tribulation. Therefore, for every level you advance, you'll need to prepare a large amount of body-tempering resources to temper your physical body to the extreme. Or you can simply cultivate a few body-tempering martial arts to improve your physical body. When you can't improve anymore, you'll attract the heavenly tribulation. That's the safest way. 60,000 perfected immortal merit points should be enough for you to cultivate the upper part of the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture properly. Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture. Qin Shijian didn't directly give Fu Moyan the complete one because there was no need. If the other party was a mighty figure above the 7th level of the celestial being, then he would directly use the complete Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture as bait. After all, at that level, the incomplete Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture would hardly be of any use. But Fu Moyan was different. The other party was only a mid-stage Divine Martial Realm player. Just the incomplete Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture alone was enough to make the other party go crazy. The remaining part. When it was suitable in the future, he would naturally give it to the other party. Anyway, for Qin Shijian, the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture was only one of the top cultivation methods in his memories of the Third Era. It wasn't to the point where he couldn't give it up. After digesting the memories in his mind, Fu Moyan immediately looked at his attribute panel. Indeed, the words Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture appeared on it. The Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture. Before the celestial being level, you'll lay the foundation. You can cultivate without worry. However, when you break through to the celestial being level, the heavenly tribulation will descend for every level. When you return to the real world, the corresponding missions will appear in the heavenly jade. Each mission will have a corresponding reward. When you complete enough missions, you'll be able to obtain the subsequent cultivation methods. Remember, the celestial being is just the beginning. The true immortal is just the next level. Although the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture is powerful, it's only enough for one to break through to the true immortal level. Cooperate with me, you'll naturally discover the benefits in the future. I'll be waiting for your good news. Don't make a mistake. After giving another warning, Qin Shijian's body dissipated like smoke, disappearing without a trace. Fu Moyan was the only one left in the huge living room. He looked at the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture on his attribute panel. Then, he looked at the heavenly jade lying quietly in the depths of his mind. For a moment, Fu Moyan didn't move. In a short period of time, the things that happened one after another were completely beyond his tolerance. I just wanted to exchange for a cultivation method. I didn't expect that such a thing would happen to me. Fu Moyan felt that life was a little surreal. But soon, he came back to his senses, and his face turned red. He accepted the mission. To a certain extent, he was one of the Emperor of Heaven's people. In the boundless world, the heavenly court reigned supreme. He had the heavenly court behind him. What right did the other players have to compete with him? Even if this mission was done in secret and his relationship with the heavenly court couldn't be made public, Fu Moyan believed that the Emperor of Heaven would definitely give him some convenience. There was nothing more to say. Even the slightest benefit could make him stand out among the players. If there was a price, it was inexplicably becoming a world trader. To this, Fu Moyan was just a little disgusted at first, but after thinking about it carefully, he felt relieved. A world trader, so be it. Not everyone is qualified to be a world trader. Anyway, as long as I get the benefits, the Emperor of Heaven won't kick me to the curb. Thinking of kicking me to the curb, Fu Moyan's heart thumped a few times. However, it wasn't his turn to think so far ahead. As long as he was useful enough, the Emperor of Heaven had no reason to expose him. Besides, when he got the benefits and increased his strength, he would have a certain right to speak and take the initiative. At any time. Strength was the most important thing. As long as he was strong enough, everything was not a problem. After a long time, Fu Moyan came back to his senses from his deep thoughts. In this mission cooperation, he first obtained the upper part of the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture. Not only did he save 10,000 true immortal merit points, but he also had the cultivation method to cultivate to the third level of the celestial being. According to Qin Shujian, as long as he cultivated the upper part of the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture to perfection, he would be able to fight against a 6th level celestial being. In this case, Fu Moyan didn't have too many doubts. Strictly speaking, it's a good thing to save 10,000 true immortal merit points. If it's 60,000 true immortal merit points, it shouldn't be a problem to exchange some of them for experience stones. As for the remaining true immortal merit points, I can use them to exchange for other resources. Suddenly, Fu Moyan's attention fell on his attribute panel. He saw that his original main cultivation method had disappeared. The moment the cultivation method disappeared, his aura also fell rapidly from the 6th level of the Divine Martial Realm to the 5th level of the Divine Martial Realm, then the 4th level of the Divine Martial Realm, in a few breaths. Fu Moyan completely fell to the 1st level of the Divine Martial Realm and returned to the initial 0 level of the Divine Martial Realm. The cultivation method was abolished. A sense of powerlessness welled up in his heart. It was tense. Fu Moyan had another thought. After abolishing the cultivation method, the extra experience points were directly added to the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture. The 1st level of the Martial Realm, the 2nd level of the Martial Realm, the 10th level of the Martial Realm. In a breath, the Martial Realm was cultivated to perfection. Immediately after, the aura on his body shook and he directly broke into the true Martial Realm. Another breath. The complete true Martial Realm directly broke into the Spirit Martial Realm, and then into the Divine Martial Realm. However, when he just stepped into the 1st level of the Divine Martial Realm, all the experience points were used up and there was no way to increase it anymore. He silently felt the power in his body. Fu Moyan's eyes lit up. A normal cultivation method of the 6th level of the Divine Martial Realm can only raise the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture to the 1st level of the Divine Martial Realm. But in terms of strength, I feel that it's not weaker than the middle level of the Divine Martial Realm. The 1st level of the Divine Martial Realm. It was comparable to a normal middle level of the Divine Martial Realm. Even if it couldn't be compared to the original 6th level of the Divine Martial Realm, it was comparable to the 4th or 5th level of the Divine Martial Realm. And this. It was only the 1st level of the Divine Martial Realm. If he raised the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture to his original level, then his strength would definitely be comparable to a peak Divine Martial Realm expert. As for whether he could surpass the peak of the Divine Martial Realm and be comparable to the Celestial Realm, that was not certain. But even so, for Fu Moyan, it was completely enough. After cultivating the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture, it seemed that his strength had been weakened. But the comparison of realms wasn't calculated like that. When he just started from the beginning, his strength had indeed weakened a little. But looking at the later stages, the benefits of cultivating the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture gradually appeared. In the simplest way. A player who cultivated the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture and a player who cultivated a normal cultivation method were both stuck at the peak of the Divine Martial Realm. The former didn't break through to the Celestial Realm. The latter didn't have a cultivation method to break through to the Celestial Realm. Once the experience points were full, it was impossible to increase it again. In this way, a player who cultivated the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture could completely suppress a player who cultivated a normal cultivation method. More importantly, Abolishing the cultivation method and cultivating again wasn't a 100% conversion. There was still a certain amount of loss. In other words, according to the original experience of the 6th level of the Divine Martial Realm, under normal circumstances, the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture could be raised to the 2nd or 3rd level of the Divine Martial Realm. At that time, in terms of true strength, it wouldn't be much weaker than him at the 6th level of the Divine Martial Realm. It might even be a little stronger. According to what the Emperor of Heaven said, the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture will only experience the heavenly tribulation after breaking through to the celestial realm. In other words, this cultivation method can only gradually display its power after reaching the celestial realm. The most important thing now is to raise the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture. Fu Moyan got up from his seat and left the living room. He was now only at the 1st level of the Divine Martial Realm. There was no need to think so much for now. First, he needed to exchange for enough experience stones to raise his realm to the peak of the Divine Martial Realm. Then, according to what Qin Shujian said, he would collect some body forging martial arts to raise his physique. In this way, his strength would be able to make a qualitative leap in a short period of time. He collected his thoughts. Fu Moyan came down from the 2nd floor. The players waiting there still had it left. To these players, he acted as if he didn't see them. Instead, he walked to the center of the square and shouted, "True immortal merit points to exchange for Celestial Realm and Divine Martial Realm crystals. Those who are willing to exchange, please contact me." Instantly, the square fell silent. Everyone's eyes involuntarily fell on Fu Moyan. The words, "True immortal merit points," just now made many people's hearts tremble. True immortal merit points! That fallen void fiend was a true immortal level fiend king! Lu Liang felt that his breathing had slowed down by a few beats. Then, endless regret surged into his heart. True immortal crystal! That was a true immortal crystal! If he got his hands on it, he would definitely soar into the sky. None of the players in the 4 great worlds would be his match. But now, the true immortal crystal had fallen into Fu Moyan's hands. That feeling made Lu Liang feel like he had lost everything. It wasn't just Lu Liang who looked like he had lost his parents. Even the expressions of the other players were extremely ugly. Damn it, he got the true immortal merit points! What should we do now? If it's the true immortal merit points, Fu Moyan is now a pig in the wind. He can fly at any time. These players were all shocked. They were both tempted and scared. Once Fu Moyan converted the true immortal merit points, his strength would definitely rise to a terrifying level. When that time came, with their current strength, they might not be able to deal with it. The faces of those players' leaders were extremely gloomy at this moment. The value of the treasure in the other party's hands was beyond their imagination. If it was the celestial crystal, it would be fine. Even if Fu Moyan completely absorbed it, although the increase in his strength would not be low, they would still be able to deal with it. But the true immortal crystal was completely beyond their expectations. Because the true immortal crystal was enough to raise a player's strength to a level that was difficult to contend with. In other words, if the crystal in Fu Moyan's hands was really of the true immortal level, then their future days would be difficult. Instantly, some people's gazes towards Lu Liang and the others had already become unfriendly. If the other party had not made things clear and instigated them to snatch the crystal without permission, they would not have offended Fu Moyan. Feeling the unfriendly gazes around them, Lu Liang, Shen Wenyao, and the others' faces were ugly. They finally understood that these people were frightened by Fu Moyan and then wrongly blamed them for this matter. Regarding this scene, Lu Liang did not explain anything. He only took a deep look at Fu Moyan, then glanced at the others and directly left the Heavenly Court branch. They could not afford to offend him. Then they would change places. Anyway, the Greater Thousand World was as big as the Outer Realm Void. These players could not block them. Moreover, Lu Liang was very confident in his own strength. No matter what. He was also an array master and an expert of the God martial arts realm. Among the players at this stage, Lu Liang's strength, even if it was not the top, was not far from it. Seeing Lu Liang leave, some people's eyes flickered and also quietly left the heavenly court branch. In the center of the square, Fu Moyan looked at their backs and secretly sneered in his heart. But he did not do anything out of line. "We'll settle this matter slowly after I've improved my strength. As for now, humph." While thinking in his heart, Fu Moyan spoke again. "I wonder if any friends want to exchange true immortal merit points for God martial arts and heaven realm crystals." "Do you really have true immortal merit points?" Zhu Qun, who had just returned from the void, looked at Fu Moyan in front of him and could not help but raise his eyebrows. True immortal merit points! That could only be obtained by killing a true immortal and obtaining a true immortal crystal. In his opinion, the person in front of him was only a god martial arts realm mutant. What right did he have to obtain a true immortal crystal? However, the other party dared to shout here. It was impossible to say that he did not have any confidence at all. Therefore, Zhu Qin asked with a tentative attitude. Hearing this, Fu Moyan immediately smiled and said, "Senior, you must be joking. If I didn't have true immortal merit points, I wouldn't dare to shout here. I have true immortal merit points, but I wonder what Senior will exchange for them. What a coincidence, I also have a lot of crystals from the god martial arts realm. How many true immortal merit points do you have?" Zhu Qun raised his eyebrows and asked instead of answering. Fu Moyan sized up Zhu Qun seriously. He was sure that he did not know the other party, but just by looking at the aura that the other party exuded and the temperament of his every move, he was not something that ordinary experts of the myriad races could compare to. Thinking of this, Fu Moyan cupped his hands and said, "Senior, if you really want to make a deal, why don't you and I change to a quiet place?" "Sure. Senior, follow me." Fu Moyan took the lead and walked out of the heavenly court branch. Zhu Qin did not hesitate and followed behind him to leave. Some people originally wanted to ask, but in the end, they did not have the chance to speak. They could only beat their chests and sigh, lamenting that they had missed an opportunity. P.S. I beg for monthly votes. Chapter 761. After returning from the extraterritorial battlefield, Qin Shujian did not return to the heavenly court. Instead, he headed towards the extraterritorial void. The reason why he returned from the extraterritorial void was because the investiture of the gods could not fit any more stars. Since he had come to the extraterritorial battlefield, there was no need to return to the heavenly court directly. Therefore, he simply headed to the extraterritorial void again to find more stars, as well as the star core to refine Zhou Tian's star map. In the void, Qin Shujian walked with his hands behind his back. With every step he took, endless space flowed. Behind him, God Slayer transformed and followed. Emperor of Heaven, is it possible that person will go back on his word? The person he was talking about was naturally Fu Moyan. To the players, God Slayer instinctively had some distrust. Qin Shujian had a faint smile on his face as he continued walking. Don't worry, since he has accepted this mission, there is no possibility of him betraying. At least before he gets the benefits he wants, he won't easily betray. I left Tianyu in his sea of consciousness and also left behind a backup plan. If he really betrays, Tianyu will take his life immediately. After saying that, Qin Shujian silently added in his heart. Even if Fu Moyan really betrayed him, it wouldn't affect him at all. To be direct, Fu Moyan was a chess piece that he had placed in the real world. The other party's main function was to weaken the power of the real world. The strength of a world's heavenly Tao had a lot to do with the living beings of heaven and earth. The stronger the living beings, the stronger the heaven and earth would be. As a result, the power that the heavenly Tao could use would become stronger and stronger. This point. It was only after Qin Shujian had opened up his inner world that he suddenly came to this realization. Therefore, if he could wipe out all the players who entered the boundless world, then the heavenly Tao of the 4-player worlds would be weakened to the extreme. But one thing was clear. Even if the heavenly Tao was weakened to the extreme, it was not something that the current boundless world could contend against. On the contrary, if he directly attacked and killed all the players, it would arouse the anger of the heavenly Tao. At that time, under a large-scale attack, the destruction of the universe would only be a matter of an instant. Therefore, directly attacking was not advisable. They could only use other methods to weaken the power of the heavenly Tao step by step. At the same time, he could not let the heavenly Tao notice anything. As long as he could stall for as long as possible, the boundless world would become more integrated with the four-player worlds. You have to understand. The four-player worlds were invading and swallowing the thousands of worlds and even the entire universe. But at the same time as the invasion, the great wide world, and even the entire universe, was silently absorbing the power of the four-player worlds to complete a transformation. However, this transformation was very slow. Normally speaking, it was unrealistic to rely on this transformation to contend against the player world. It was also because of this. The world of players had nothing to fear, and they dared to start from the greater thousand worlds and gradually devour the universe. What Qin Shijian wanted to do. When the great thousand worlds were transforming, they would inadvertently weaken the power of the player's world. When the time was right, they would launch the final counterattack. This idea had come to him on the spur of the moment. After seeing Fu Moyan, he became a pawn for the heavenly court to enter the real world. Qin Shijian was not worried that the other party would betray him. To be honest, Fu Moyan had no reason to betray him. If he took 10,000 steps back. If Fu Moyan really betrayed him, then at most he would lose this pawn, but it would not affect him too much. Because the connection between him and the other party lay in the heavenly jade. At that time, as long as the heavenly jade was destroyed, there would not be any problems. At the same time, the heavenly jade was also sealed by Qin Shijian with a special method and hidden in Fu Moyan's sea of consciousness. As long as the other party was not in the real world and publicly took out the heavenly jade, there would not be any problems. If he really took it out, the heavenly jade would be destroyed the moment the heavenly Tao noticed. But at the same time, Fu Moyan would also be killed by the heavenly Tao when the heavenly jade was destroyed. The final result. Qin Shijian had already thought about it. Therefore, he was not worried that Fu Moyan would betray him. It should be said, even if he betrayed him, he would not suffer any losses. There are a total of 4-player worlds invading the greater thousand worlds. Since I want to leave a pawn, I can't be biased. I have to find an opportunity for the other 3-player worlds. With tens of billions of players, it shouldn't be difficult to find a few world traders. But these world traders can't be too stupid, and their luck can't be too bad. It will take some time, Qin Shijian thought to himself. With tens of billions of players, it was normal for a few traders to appear. But not every trader was suitable to be his pawn. If he was too stupid, he might end up ruining his plans instead. After having an idea in his mind, Qin Shijian did not stop walking. Then, his gaze fell on the surrounding void. Now was not the time to go back. Since he had come from the outer realm, he had to take something with him before leaving. Deep in the outer realm, there was a long river of rules surging. A damaged monument was slowly repairing the cracks in it. And above the long river of rules, there were also endless black shadows creeping, rendering that place into a demonic domain. The rule monument is damaged. It won't be easy to repair it. The boundless darkness surged, and suddenly, a person's figure appeared at the center of it all. At this moment, Bach's face was unprecedentedly gloomy. After breaking through to become a top-tier demon emperor, he had never suffered such a crushing defeat in more than 1,000,000 years. Even when he faced the ancient heavenly court, he was only defeated. He did not fall to the extent that the rule monument was damaged. But in the battle not long ago, it directly damaged the rule monument, causing it to almost fall to the level of a top-tier demon emperor. Such a heavy blow made Bach very angry. But in addition to his anger, he was also shocked. Especially when Qin Shijian used the absolute command. That terrifying power made it difficult for Bach to calm down. The demon abyss is approaching. I don't have much time left. The Rule Monument is damaged. If I want to repair it normally, it will take at least 10,000 years. That's too long. But if the Rule Monument is not repaired, with my current strength, I won't be able to deal with him. Looks like I can only use some extreme methods. Bach's expression kept changing. The surrounding void also became restless. Atop her demon emperor. Even if it was a change in mood, it could cause a disturbance in the void. Immediately after, an invisible wave spread out from the darkness and quickly spread out. Not long after, the void crumbled. 3 demon emperors appeared from within. Greetings, Lord Demon Emperor! These 3 demon emperors were all the emperors of the Bach clan. They were also the ones in charge other than the demon emperor. Bach said coldly, "This emperor needs the flesh and blood of living creatures. There must be enough of them, or they must be strong enough. This emperor wants to see enough flesh and blood of living creatures within 10 years. If there isn't any by then you will become this emperor's sacrifices." Cold words. It made the demon emperors tremble uncontrollably. "Lord Demon Emperor, don't worry. We will definitely collect enough flesh and blood of living creatures for you." They believed. Bach's words were not just empty words. When the time came, if they did not collect enough flesh and blood of living creatures, then they would become this demon emperor's sacrifices. Although the demon emperors seemed to be high and mighty. In fact, in front of the demon emperor, they were just ants. If the other party really wanted to attack them, even if they joined forces, they would not be able to contend against him. "Go, this emperor will wait for your news." After Bach finished speaking, his illusory body disappeared. Endless darkness crept. The long river of laws was also faintly discernible. The demon emperors looked at each other, and then respectfully retreated. A floating continent. This was the place where the Bach clan was located. "Lord Demon Emperor has ordered us to plunder enough flesh and blood of living creatures. Right now, apart from the void beasts, only the upper-class world can meet this demand," Demon Emperor Chester said slowly with an indifferent expression. On his left and right were the other 2 demon emperors. As soon as he finished speaking, one of the demon emperors said, "If we attack the upper-class world, I'm afraid the clan will suffer a great loss. The loss of our clansmen is nothing. It's their honor to be able to sacrifice themselves for the demon emperor's orders. If we can't plunder enough flesh and blood of living creatures, then the ones who will sacrifice themselves for the demon emperor will be us," Chester said coldly. No matter how many of the Bach clan's clansmen died, it had nothing to do with him. Although he was the demon emperor of the clan, the true ruler of the clan was the demon emperor Bach. If there was not enough flesh and blood of living creatures, when the demon emperor was angry, even the demon emperors would die. "What are your plans?" "Join forces with the other clans and attack the upper-class world together. The other 2 clans may not agree. If they don't agree, then we'll attack alone. Anyway, the purpose of this time is not to conquer the upper-class world. It's enough as long as we plunder the flesh and blood of living creatures. The living creatures of the upper-class world have also set up a defense line in the void. We don't need to attack the upper-class world. As long as we fight in the void, I think we'll be able to get enough flesh and blood of living creatures." Chester looked at the 2 demon emperors with a cold expression and said indifferently. Seeing this, the other 2 demon emperors no longer objected. As long as they were not the ones who died, it was enough. As for how many clansmen died when the war started, it did not matter to them. The evil demon clan in the void. There were no extra emotions. There was only a strict division of ranks. Soon, the corresponding information was transmitted to the other 2 clans. "Join forces to attack the upper-class world?" Yelvis frowned slightly. He was a little confused about the news from the Bach clan. Well, why did the Bach clan want to attack the upper-class world? In his opinion, even if the 3 clans joined forces to attack the upper-class world, they had no chance of winning. However, being cautious, Yelvis did not immediately refuse. Instead, he looked at the emissary below and said faintly, Benoit needs to consider this matter. You can stay in the Xylo clan for the time being. Benoit will give you an answer within 3 days. Thank you, Demon Emperor. The Demon King of the Bahero clan bowed respectfully, his tone filled with respect. Yelvis waved his hand, and the other party tactfully left. After he left, Longfellow looked puzzled. Are Chester and the others crazy? Why are they attacking the upper-class world? Attacking the upper-class world. In his opinion, such an approach was no different from being retarded. Yelvis sneered. What right does Chester have to make the decision to attack the upper-class world? This matter concerns the direction of the clan. The only one who is truly qualified to make the decision is that person. You mean, the Demon Emperor? Longfellow also reacted instantly. That's right. Although the status of the Demon Emperor was high, he could not make such a decision on his own. Although it was ridiculous. In fact, the Demon Emperor did not have the right to control the direction of a clan. Most of the time, they were like the puppets of the Demon Emperor, maintaining the normal operation of the clan when the Demon Emperor was in seclusion. As for other things, they all needed to ask the Demon Emperor. Yelvis said, I need to ask the Demon Emperor about this matter. Since the Demon Emperor wants to attack the upper-class world, there must be some unknown reasons. For us, this might be an opportunity. I'll wait for you in the clan. Longfellow said directly. If there was no need, he did not want to get close to Xylo. If the Demon Emperor was in a bad mood, the Demon Emperor would be courting death. Yelvis glanced at him and did not force him. The black fog on the seat dissipated, and it did not take long for it to completely disappear. In the depths of the outer realm, the black fog shattered the void and stood there. Then, Yelvis's figure appeared. He looked at the darkness in front of him and bowed respectfully. Demon Emperor, I have something to ask to see you. As soon as he finished speaking, the darkness shook slightly. A corner of his aura leaked out, causing Yelvis's body to tremble slightly. What's the matter? Speak. Xylo's indifferent voice came from the darkness. Hearing this, Yelvis did not dare to hesitate and replied respectfully. Just now, an envoy from the Baido clan came, hoping to unite all the clans and attack the upper-class world together. This matter is of great importance. I dare not make a decision on my own, so I came to ask the Demon Emperor. Attack the upper-class world? Xylo murmured softly to himself. Immediately, some fluctuations came from the darkness, causing the surrounding aura to fluctuate even more violently. Promise him. Yes. In addition, when attacking the upper-class world, collect all the flesh and blood of the creatures killed and then offer them to me. Yes, sir. From the beginning to the end, Yelvis had been bowing. When the voice in the darkness was completely silent, he slowly retreated. The void shattered. Yelvis had completely disappeared in front of the darkness. The next moment, he appeared in a completely unfamiliar void. The trembling of his body and the fear on his face had disappeared at this moment. It was just a calm expression and a slight smile. Collecting the flesh and blood of creatures, it seems that you have suffered a serious injury and need the flesh and blood of creatures to recover. If the Baido clan did this, no one would be spared from that battle. So now, how much strength do you have left? It really makes Benoit a little curious. The smile on Yelvis's lips became more and more obvious. It was a simple contact. He basically knew the reason why those demon emperors wanted to attack the upper-class world. Soon, in a little more time, Benoit will be able to officially break through to the demon emperor realm. Thinking of something, a cold light appeared in Yelvis's eyes, and then it disappeared. In the end, he disappeared into the void. Before breaking through to the demon emperor realm, no matter how many ideas and schemes he had, they were all fake. It was also when Yelvis left. The darkness surged. Then, all the darkness faded, and Xylo's figure appeared. Attacking the upper-class world, you want to plunder the flesh and blood of creatures, right? Such an impatient approach, your injuries are more serious than I thought. The darkness in Emozilo's eyes had become even deeper, plundering the flesh and blood of creatures. This was the fastest way to recover from injuries. Even if the rule monument was damaged, as long as there was enough flesh and blood of creatures, there was a way to repair it. Back in the beginning, Emozilo had thought of using the flesh and blood of creatures to repair his injuries. However, he did not take the lead to speak. Once someone spoke, to a large extent, it proved that their injuries were the most serious. Although the clans had joined forces, they were not really standing on the same boat. There was no need to reveal his trump card too early. Now that Baido could not wait, Emozilo also pushed the boat with the current, mobilizing the power of the clan to attack the upper-class world together. All of a sudden, a meaningful smile appeared on Emozilo's face. A moment later, his body dissipated, and darkness crept again. At the same time, the long river of laws loomed, and a broken rule monument was slowly repairing the cracks on it. After asking the Demon Emperor for permission, when Yelvis returned to the clan, he immediately informed the messenger of the Baido clan of the results. Then, the entire Emozilo clan also moved. Not long after, a large number of void demons gathered and headed towards the upper-class world. When the Emozilo clan moved out, the Baido clan and the Yizo clan each had their own allied forces. The allied forces of the three clans, a total of 10 billion void demons, moved out. A large number of void demons gathered together, forming a boundless darkness that covered the entire void. The cultivators and players of the myriad clans who were exploring the outer realm also noticed the abnormality of the void demons at the first moment. Not good, the void demons have moved out on a large scale. Run! Why did they suddenly move out on a large scale? Are they going to start a war again? Those cultivators and players of the myriad clans who encountered the army were now in shock and panic. For a time, many cultivators died. But there were also more cultivators who immediately fled to the back of the outer realm battlefield after noticing the abnormality. Just as the cultivators were about to flee, the news of the Void Fiend's large-scale invasion also officially spread. After receiving the news, the Heavenly Court immediately entered a state of preparation for war. The powerhouses of the myriad clans all walked out of the upper-class world and settled in the various cities of the outer realm battlefield. All the cultivators who went out to explore had also all returned at this moment. In an instant, the atmosphere of the outer realm battlefield was extremely solemn. P.S. 10,000 words per day is actually not a small amount. I hope more support. Chapter 762. In the extraterritorial battlefield. In the city at the front line, the gods of the Heavenly Court gathered. The aura of the perfected immortals did not spread out deliberately, but a large number of powerhouses gathered together could put the void under a lot of pressure. Is there any news about the Emperor of Heaven? Emperor Zhao looked at the other gods and asked. Hearing this, the gods shook their heads. The Demon Emperor said, We have already sent out the message. If the Emperor of Heaven is in the Great Thousand World, there will definitely be a reply. Now that there is no reply, he must be in the extraterritorial void. Now that the army of the evil demon clan is coming, the Emperor of Heaven should be able to sense it. In fact, as long as the Demon Emperor doesn't make a move, with our strength, it won't be a problem to fight against a few clans. As early as when the news of the evil demon army came, the gods of the Heavenly Court had already contacted Qin Shijian. Unfortunately, the news was sent out, but there was no reply. Because the extraterritorial void was too vast, it was almost impossible to contact with the communication Jade Talisman. The Demon Emperor probably won't make a move. Xiao Chengfeng shook his head slightly, his expression cold. In the last battle, Bach and the other Demon Emperors didn't get the upper hand. If they don't have absolute confidence now, the Demon Emperor won't make a move easily. In my opinion, the alliance army of the various clans should be a test. It's not a big problem whether the Emperor of Heaven returns or not. With our strength, it's enough to fight against a few clans. No one had a deeper understanding of the demon emperors than him. Although the demon emperors were high and mighty, they actually cherished their lives very much. When the ancient heavenly court attacked the evil demon clan in the void, Bach was killed, and the other demon emperors didn't even dare to fart. Seeing that they were no match for the heavenly court, they retreated decisively. In fact, even when the demon abyss attacked the great thousand world, those demon emperors didn't dare to move, let alone get a share of the pie. Therefore, Xiao Chengfeng was certain. Those demon emperors would definitely not make a move again before they were 100% confident. In the last battle, although he didn't see much, he could understand. The strength of Bach and the other demon emperors should be inferior to that of the Emperor of Heaven. Or else, that battle wouldn't be so easy. Yes, it was easy. In Xiao Qingfeng's estimation, the battle for the heavenly court to walk out of the heaven and earth barrier would be extremely tragic. If they were not careful, they might even be wiped out. But in reality, although the heavenly court had lost many true immortals in that battle, it was not as tragic as expected. In the end, thanks to the investiture of the gods, all the fallen true immortals were resurrected. At this moment, darkness erosion. If one took a closer look, they would discover that the boundless darkness was not a single entity. Instead, it was slightly divided. Boom! The heavy and melodious sound of the bell rang. One sound after another reverberated through the battlefield. The restless hearts of all the cultivators who heard the sound of the bell calmed down. Xiao Chengfeng looked at the approaching darkness with a cold smile on his face. It's a pity that the heavenly troops have just been formed. It's not time to use them yet. Otherwise, I would also like to see how much advantage a heavenly soldier has over other cultivators. There were too few heavenly soldiers now. There was still a huge gap between them and the 100,000 heavenly soldiers that Qin Shujian had mentioned. Other than that, cultivation techniques and formations. The heavenly soldiers were only at the beginning stages of cultivation. They were not really perfected yet. If they were to use the heavenly soldiers now, then the newly formed heavenly soldiers would be almost useless after the battle. Therefore, Xiao Chengfeng did not plan to let the heavenly soldiers participate in the battle. It was not the final battle yet. It was not a good thing to use the heavenly soldiers rashly. The nefarious devil clan's army has taken shape. If they attack our cities directly, we will lose a lot of cultivators. Who is willing to follow me to break the formation? Emperor Zhao clasped his hands behind his back. His gaze was cold and indifferent. After he finished speaking, the dog emperor smiled and said, "Since Emperor Zhongyuan has spoken, we naturally will not refuse. Coincidentally, I have been itching for a long time. Let's play with them. Count me in." Si Hanhai's eyes were scarlet. Looking at the void evil demon army in front of him, he felt a violent restlessness in his heart. The last time he devoured a demon emperor, his strength increased greatly. He became the first of the 5 emperors to break through to the 5th level immortal realm. At this moment, in Si Hanhai's eyes, the void evil demons were the best nourishment. As long as he devoured more void evil demons, his strength would increase faster. If he could devour all the demon emperors and demon emperors, he might be able to break through to the 9th level immortal realm. However, Si Hanhai also understood. With his current strength, he could only deal with 1 or 2 demon emperors at most. He was still far from being able to deal with demon emperors. The void evil demons were a huge tonic for him, but he was also nourishment for the void evil demons. If he really met demon emperors, Si Hanhai felt that it was better to think of a way to escape. The demon emperor and the soul protection emperor did not refuse. Especially the soul protection emperor. After restoring his own laws, his strength increased by leaps and bounds. Although he did not break through to the 4th level immortal realm, it was close. As the last of the 5 emperors, the soul protection emperor also wanted to show off. To be honest, the previous battle was a little unsatisfactory. After this battle, I should be able to break through to the 4th level immortal realm. The Soul Protection Emperor's expression was calm. He was not worried about the incoming army of void evil demons. Battle. It was very beneficial for breaking through. After any life and death battle, as long as one did not die, one would gain something. After confirming that the investiture of the gods could be reborn, he was no longer afraid of death. According to Qin Shujian, as long as one's lifespan was not exhausted, or if one was attacked by a Dao fruit expert, one could still be reborn on the investiture of the gods even if one died in the hands of a demon emperor. With this kind of confidence, he was confident. Not only the Soul Protection Emperor, but the other true immortals of the heavenly court were also much less afraid of death. Rebirth after death. At most, they would only be weakened for a short period of time. Apart from that, there would be no other side effects. Make your move! Emperor Zhao took a step forward, and the nameless stone spear fell into his hand. The stone spear slashed down. The cold spear light cut through the lonely void and headed straight for the darkness. In an instant, a demon emperor made his move. Dark energy surged like a tide, trying to forcibly stop the spear light. However, Zhu Bing's power combined with Emperor Zhao's strength. Ordinary demon emperors had no chance of contending against him. In an instant, dark energy tore through the void. The demon emperor was blasted away. Then, the spear light plunged into the darkness and tore it apart. When Emperor Zhao made his move, the dog emperor also revealed his true form. A huge 9-headed dog appeared, standing in the void. The 9 heads were the size of mountains, and they swallowed the army of demons in the void. Boom! The void shattered, and the dog emperor easily bit and swallowed them. A demon emperor tried to stop him, but the dark energy that erupted was swallowed by the dog emperor when it was about to touch him. However, in terms of strength, there was a big gap between the dog emperor and Emperor Zhao. Emperor Zhao could easily defeat a demon emperor, but the dog emperor could not. Even so, after the dog emperor made his move, the army's progress was temporarily stopped. All of a sudden, monstrous blood clouds rose, covering the entire army of demons in the void. In the blood clouds, blood lotuses rose one after another, and Si Hanhai's figure appeared on every single one of them. Evil and tyrannical laughter echoed in the void. It's him! Your Wei's and Longfellow's expressions changed. They recognized Si Hanhai, because the demon Emperor Troy of the Ma Xiaoluo clan died in his hands. As for the expert who had killed Troy, he had no idea what to do. The 2 demon emperors could not forget. At this moment, the blood clouds spread and collided with the darkness. Seeing this scene, the demon emperors made their move, but they could not stop all the blood clouds. The blood clouds rushed into the army of demons in the void, causing many casualties. In the next moment, a golden-winged rock shattered the void, and a long river of laws surged. A huge face appeared in the void. For the first time, everyone could clearly see the 5 imperial emperors making their moves. In the previous battle, although the 5 imperial emperors also made their moves, they were fighting separately. The others did not have time to observe. But it was different now. The army of demons in the void had not completely arrived, and the cultivators and players were all in a state of preparation. At this moment, they all saw the power of the 5 imperial emperors in the extraterritorial battlefield. Terrifying power gathered. It forcefully tore apart the boundless darkness. The moment the darkness was torn apart, the gods of the heavenly court made their move. The cultivators and players of the myriad races also made their move at the first moment. A great battle. In the blink of an eye, it erupted. Demon Emperor? Si Hanhai instantly fixed his eyes on a target, and an evil smile appeared on his face. After devouring Troy last time, he had already tasted the benefits. So, right now, he only wanted to devour a few more demon emperors to increase his strength. Longfellow, who was targeted by Si Hanhai, immediately had a solemn expression. In terms of strength, Longfellow was naturally not afraid of Si Hanhai. It was just that Troy had fallen in the hands of the other party, so he instinctively felt afraid. However, fear was fear. Longfellow had no intention of backing down either. His gaze was cold as he said, "You're the one who killed Troy, right? Then let me see just how strong the person who killed Troy is." The dark energy surged, and the long river of laws surged. He entered the devil's pool once. His strength had also increased by a lot. Originally, Longfellow's strength was already above Troy's. Now that he had broken through, his strength had become even more terrifying. As soon as he made his move, that powerful aura made Si-Han-Hai's heart solemn. However, he didn't reveal too much on the surface. He took a step forward. Blood clouds surged. Blood lotuses bloomed one after another, giving birth to one Si-Han-Hai after another, pouncing towards Longfellow. "Pretending to be mysterious!" Longfellow sneered. With a wave of his hand, dark energy erupted, forcefully destroying the Si-Han-Hai that pounced towards him. All of a sudden, behind Longfellow, blood lotuses bloomed, and a palm reached out towards his back. Just as it was about to touch him, Longfellow's body suddenly dispersed like black mist. In the next moment, he had already appeared behind Si-Han-Hai. Si-Han-Hai's expression changed slightly. Without pausing for even half a breath, blood-red immortal essence surged, and he turned around and struck out with his palm. Boom! Two terrifying forces collided, shattering the void. In the next moment, they were already fighting in close quarters. Deep in the outer realm, Qin Shujian was currently engaged in a fierce battle with the void beast. A terrifying aura burst out, shattering the space within 100 million li into pieces. In the chaotic void, there were the corpses of void beasts lying there. There were strong and weak corpses. The strong ones were true immortals, and the weak ones were diviners. As for the void beasts below the diviner level, facing the power of a 9th level immortal, there were no corpses left at all. At this moment, the void beast that was fighting with Qin Shujian was at the upper 3rd level of the true immortal realm. Its body was 1,000,000 feet long. Every time they exchanged blows, it seemed to be able to break time and space. Boom! The God Slayer slashed down. The void beast let out an angry roar, and one of its arms was chopped off. However, before blood could spurt out, flesh and blood grew out, and a new arm had already grown out. At the same time, a fist bombarded. Qin Shujian's body shook slightly, and in the face of this huge force, he also retreated. After taking a step back, he immediately leaned forward. Zhu Bing's sharpness was revealed, and the cold blade light was enough to shatter time and space. Boom! 3 days later, one man and one beast fought non-stop. In the end, Qin Shujian's strength was stable, and he used the God Slayer to cut off the void beast's head. Just as the other party was about to regenerate its flesh and blood, the investiture of the gods came down and forcibly shattered its body. Then, the God Slayer directly stabbed into the void beast's body. A large amount of energy was absorbed by the stone blade. The flesh and blood disappeared. The void beast's indestructible soul let out an indignant roar. But it was useless. In half a day, the void beast's flesh and blood were all absorbed by the God Slayer. The blade, which was already exuding a powerful aura, now had an even more powerful aura. How long will it take to transcend the tribulation? After the God Slayer completely absorbed the power of the flesh and blood, Qin Shujian waved his hand and threw out the red lotus of purgation to refine the remaining beast corpses, in order to help the God Slayer transcend the tribulation. Now, he didn't refine the corpses of the upper 3 levels of true immortals. He left them all for the other party to absorb. The stone blade vibrated and transformed into the appearance of a young man. The strength of this beast is not simple. I estimate that it is at least an 8th level immortal, much stronger than a 7th level immortal. With one more beast like this, I can start transcending the tribulation. 10 upper 3 levels of true immortals could transcend the tribulation. But the upper 3 levels of true immortals here only referred to 7th level immortals. In fact, The energy that an 8th level immortal could provide was not comparable to that of a 7th level immortal at all. The energy contained in the body of an 8th level immortal was at least several times that of a 7th level immortal. Qin Shujian said indifferently, "This void beast is not weak. Although it is not a 9th level immortal, it is almost ready to advance. If I'm not wrong, it should be the Beast Emperor of the Outer Realms. It can be considered the strongest void beast. However, there might be even more powerful void beasts out there. It's just that it is not so easy to find an existence of the same level. If it was not a top 8th level immortal, how could it be qualified to fight with him for so long and be killed by him in the end?" Qin Shujian was almost certain that the void beast he killed was almost the strongest of all the void beasts in the universe. As for whether there was a stronger void beast, the possibility was very low. After all, in the outer realm, the void demons were the rulers. Compared to the void beasts, there was a big gap in strength. If the void beasts had a 9th level immortal, they would not be suppressed by the void demons. He simply cleaned up the battlefield. Qin Shujian left the place. Killing the void demons was only a secondary matter. Finding the stars and increasing the overall strength of the great wide world was the most important thing at the moment. However, when Qin Shujian left, he did the same thing as before. He sprinkled the blood of the star beasts in the void to attract the void beasts as much as possible. As for whether it was possible to kill the void beast to extinction or not, it had nothing to do with him. In any case, the void demons were an obstacle. The void beasts were also an obstacle to the Heavenly Court's exploration of the Outer Realm. When the cultivators of the myriad races walked out of the Outer Realm, many cultivators died in the hands of the void beasts. The void beasts did not have intelligence. They only had instincts. Therefore, it was impossible for the two sides to live in harmony. Since they could not live in harmony, then they would kill all of them and there would be no trouble later. The blood of the star beasts spilled. Soon other void beasts were attracted. In this regard, there was no need for Qin Shujian to make a move. With the Godslayer's own strength, he could kill all the beasts below the true immortal realm. While killing the beasts, there were also other stars that appeared in his perception. He saw a star that was hundreds of thousands of feet in size quietly floating in the void. On the star, it had a powerful aura. Seeing this, Qin Shujian formed a seal with both hands. When his vital essence erupted, it turned into a sealing power that fell on the star, forcibly sealing the power emitted by the star. As the sealing power fell, the star trembled violently. Although the stars didn't have intelligence, they could still sense some threats from the unseen world. It was just that this kind of resistance. For Qin Shujian, it had no effect at all. Then, the god roll flew out. The list turned into 1,000,000 feet in size in the wind, covering the sky and the sun, and directly absorbing the star. In the next moment, the god roll returned to its original size and fell into Qin Shujian's hands. All of a sudden, the god roll shook for a moment. Among the names of the gods on it, one of the names seemed to have lost its luster and suddenly became dim. An immortal god has fallen! Qin Shujian's expression changed, and his expression immediately became solemn. The immortals who could be on the list were the strongest among the true immortals of the myriad races. If it wasn't for the outbreak of a great battle, there was almost no possibility of them falling. Could it be that he encountered a powerhouse of the nefarious devil clan in the outskirts of the void? Qin Shujian's expression flickered as his gaze remained fixed on the name. Immediately after, the god roll rose into the sky. Qin Shujian waved his hand, and vital essence surged. The violent energy in the outer realm also swarmed over. Not long after, a wisp of true spirit flashed, and an immortal god walked out of the void. P.S. Requesting monthly votes. Chapter 763. In the void outside the realm, violent energy swarmed over. The Moon Emperor's body appeared out of thin air and then solidified. His eyes, which were originally filled with confusion and emptiness, regained their original luster at this moment. Soon, the Moon Emperor saw the surrounding environment clearly. Those chaotic memories were also reorganized and perfected. Then, she bowed slightly. "Greetings, Emperor of Heaven! What happened? With your strength as the Moon's sovereign, even if you met a demon emperor, you shouldn't have fallen. Could it be that you met a demon emperor?" Qin Shijian's expression was cold. As an immortal god, the Moon Lord's deity position was powerful enough to make the Moon Emperor one of the few strongest people below the four war gods. Although the other party was a third-level immortal, if they really fought, it would not be easy for a third-level true immortal to kill him. So, the death of the Moon Emperor. This made Qin Shijian instinctively feel that things might not be good. The Moon Emperor said, "The Void Evil Demon clan has formed an army and is attacking the extraterritorial battlefield. We also want to contact the Emperor of Heaven about this, but the extraterritorial void is vast, and the communication Jade token can't send the news out." The extraterritorial void was too big, and the communication Jade token also had a distance limit. In addition, the extraterritorial void was filled with violent energy everywhere, which also weakened the effect of the communication Jade token. "The Void Evil Demon clan is attacking the extraterritorial battlefield." Qin Shijian stood with his hands behind his back. The body that the God Slayer had transformed into also disappeared. The essence of the stone saber reappeared and quietly stayed beside him. "Did a demon emperor make a move?" Qin Shijian asked in a deep voice. If a demon emperor made a move, then the myriad races would probably suffer heavy losses. But until now, only the Moon Emperor had died. Logically speaking, there should be no demon emperor making a move. But if there was no demon emperor making a move, the Void Evil Demons had nothing better to do and wanted to attack the extraterritorial battlefield. As expected, Moon Emperor's answer was the same as what Qin Shijian had guessed. "I didn't see any demon emperors. Only a few demon emperors from different clans have joined the battle. Now they are fighting against the imperial emperors of 5 directions, and the outcome of the battle has yet to be determined. As for me, I accidentally fell at the hands of a demon king." Toward the end of her sentence, the Moon Queen looked a little ashamed. The dignified Moon Lord had fallen at the hands of a demon king. If word got out, it would be a shameful matter. However, on the battlefield, any situation could change in an instant. It was also impossible for it to be the same as a normal battle, where fairness or one-on-one was a must. She was originally fighting a demon king, but in the end, she was ambushed by other demon kings and had no choice but to die. Fortunately, one could still be reborn in the investiture of the gods. Otherwise, the Moon Clan would have to change a new emperor. "Then follow me back." Qin Shijian glanced at the Moon Queen. Then, he stepped into the void and headed for the extraterrestrial battlefield. Seeing this, the Moon Empress followed behind him. Along the way, Qin Shijian was also paying close attention to the changes on the investiture of the gods. Although no demon emperor had made a move before, it was possible that after the Moon Empress died, there would be a demon emperor. As long as the immortals and gods on the investiture of the gods did not die on a large scale, there would be no problem. But if a large number of immortals and gods on the investiture of the gods died, things would become very troublesome. To be honest, Qin Shijian didn't expect that the nefarious Devil Clan would attack the extraterritorial battlefield. Earlier, he did not receive any news at all. Otherwise, Qin Shijian would not take the risk to enter the depths of the extraterrestrial battlefield. Because in the Heavenly Court, there were only about 3 people who had the battle strength of an upper 3 true immortal, including Chu Kuangtu and Niu Dali. But the Demon Emperor was not an ordinary upper 3 true immortal. So, he was the only one who could compete with the Demon Emperor. If the Demon Emperor really made a move at this time, Qin Shijian was not confident that he could rush back immediately. At that time, the Heavenly Court would definitely suffer heavy losses. The news of me leaving the Heavenly Court should not have spread, and the Demon Emperors could not have gotten the news. I almost killed them in the last battle. Without 100% confidence, those demon emperors would not dare to make a move easily. Even if I don't show up, they will still be afraid. It's just that the heavenly court does not show any signs of defeat. If they do, it will be really troublesome. Qin Shujian's expression was calm, but he was already thinking about some things in his heart. As long as he did not show up, Ba Duo and the other demon emperors would be afraid. But if the heavenly court was at a disadvantage, and he did not show up, it would arouse the other party's suspicion. At that time, even if those few devil emperors had scruples in their hearts, they could possibly make a move to probe. Once the demon emperors made a move, the casualties would be heavy. An upper 3 true immortal was not someone that other true immortals could compete with, not to mention that the demon emperors were not true immortals who had just entered the upper 3 true immortal. Even the weakest demon emperor was around the 8th true immortal. As for Ba Duo and Mo Xiaoa, they were experts at the 9th true immortal level. In the last battle, although the other party was injured, their strength would not drop too much. If they really wanted to fight, Chu Kuangtu and the others would not have the possibility to fight back. Now the Heavenly Court's core strength is enough, but the top strength is still lacking. Once I leave, the Heavenly Court's strength will fall into a vacuum. Only when Chu Kuangtu and Yo Dali break through can the current situation be resolved. Qin Shujian sighed secretly. In the past, having a true immortal was already considered a top combat strength. But now it was different. Opening the extraterritorial battlefield, the Heavenly Court faced the void demons that had existed for countless years. Ordinary true immortals could only be considered a decent combat strength. Only true immortals in the middle 3 true immortals could be the core combat strength. As for the upper 3 true immortals, they were the real top combat strength. Without enough top-notch combat power to hold the fort, the current situation would occur. They could not leave at will, because once they left, a war would suddenly break out, and there would not be any experts who could hold the fort. Sigh! Qin Shujian sighed silently in his heart. He felt that it was a little difficult. At this moment, the war was still ongoing. Although the allied forces of the 3 void demon clans were not as strong as the last time, they were not much weaker. About 10 days later, both sides were in a state of fierce battle. Every minute and second, a large number of cultivators of the myriad races and the void demons died. As long as a void evil devil fell, someone would snatch the crystals away from them. Similarly, when the cultivators of the myriad races died, their flesh and blood would be collected by the void demons immediately. On the battlefield at the rear, there were experts supervising the battle. Although both sides had invested most of their forces so far, they still left some experts to guard, in case the void demons had other backup plans. They also wanted to prevent the void demons from taking the opportunity to sneak into the great wide world. They're collecting flesh and blood, what's their purpose? In the sky above the city, Emperor Pashan noticed the changes in the battlefield, and his face darkened. As the expert holding the line, he could immediately discover the changes in the battlefield. At this moment, he could clearly see it. The void demons were collecting the flesh and blood of the fallen cultivators, just like the cultivators collecting the crystals left behind by the void demons after they died. But what puzzled the Emperor Pashan was, what was the use of the void demons collecting the flesh and blood of living beings? Beside him, it was the Thousand-Eye Emperor, who was severely injured and had temporarily retreated from the battlefield. Hearing this, his expression was solemn. Collecting the flesh and blood of living beings might be the reason why the void demons started this war. Otherwise, there's no way to explain why they suddenly attacked. Everything was fine, but they suddenly attacked. The Thousand-Eye Emperor couldn't believe that there was no problem. However, he also couldn't understand why the other party was collecting the flesh and blood of living beings. Not long after, the Thousand-Eye Emperor seemed to have thought of something and said in a deep voice, "The Void Demon clan should have some evil secret technique that allows them to collect the flesh and blood of living beings at all costs. Their true goal is probably those demon emperors. The living beings of the myriad races are blessed by the heavens, and flesh and blood are very precious to some existences. I suspect there are demon emperors who were injured in the previous battle and need the flesh and blood of living beings to recover. Of course, it could also be collecting the flesh and blood of living beings or using some evil method. Not long ago, wasn't the entire Void Demon clan slaughtered and then used as a blood sacrifice? The Boyle clan was slaughtered. The news of being used as a blood sacrifice by the other 3 clans was no longer a secret. As an immortal god of the heavenly court, the Thousand Eye Emperor was also very clear. Right now, the Void Demons started a war and then collected the flesh and blood of living beings. As long as he thought about it, he could more or less guess the reason. Even if we understand their intentions, we can't stop them now. The Mountain Breaker Emperor shook his head. Now that the war had started, no one could care about anyone else. Who had the right to stop it? The war at hand. It was already a little strange. As long as the cultivators of the myriad races died, their flesh and blood would be collected by the Void Demons immediately. And when the Void Demons died, their crystals would also be collected by the myriad races' cultivators and players. As a result, even though countless living beings had died, the number of people who had died was uncountable. But on the battlefield, there were no corpses. In fact, there wasn't even much blood. Suddenly, the Mountain Breaker Emperor struck out with his palm. A cultivator who was heading toward the passageway of heaven and earth was instantly torn into pieces. When his body was torn apart, black fog seeped out from his body and then suddenly dispersed. In the end, a crystal fell into the void of space. The Mountain Breaker Emperor retracted his palm and shouted in a deep voice, "Everyone, pay close attention to prevent the Void Demons from sneaking into the Great Thousand World." The cultivator that he had just killed was a cultivator who had been possessed by the Void Demons. There was no need to explain why the other party wanted to sneak into the Great Thousand World. It was just a heavenly human realm Void Demon, so it was impossible for him to hide from the Mountain Breaker Emperor's senses. Hearing this, the experts guarding the passageway had solemn expressions on their faces as they became even more vigilant of their surroundings. If the Void Demons really sneaked into the Great Thousand World, they would not have an easy time. He had killed a Void Fiend. The Mountain Breaker Emperor's divine consciousness spread out. While he was vigilant of his surroundings, his expression became even more serious. "There is no news of the Emperor of Heaven now. I don't know if the Demon Emperors will be unable to hold back an attack. If the Demon Emperors attack, I'm afraid we will be in trouble. The Emperor of Heaven should have received the news that the Moon Empress has fallen," the Thousand Eye Emperor said in a deep voice. The Emperor of Heaven, who was in charge of the investiture of the gods, would definitely sense the fall of an immortal god. Therefore, he was not worried about this problem. As long as the Emperor of Heaven could rush back in time before the Demon Emperors attacked, it would be enough. At this moment, another Void Demon had possessed the cultivator and was attacking the passageway of heaven and earth, as well as the various cities. The Mountain Breaker Emperor and the Thousand Eye Emperor did not just stand by and watch. They both attacked and killed the Void Demons that were attacking. Another day passed. Finally, an immortal god was injured and retreated to the rear to recuperate. "Brother Yang, how are your injuries?" The Thousand Eye Emperor looked at Xiang in front of him and asked. "I won't die for the time being. I didn't expect there to be such a powerful demon king among the Void Demons. I was careless." Xiang swallowed a pill and barely suppressed his injuries before he shook his head and said, "After fighting for so long, he had also lost a lot of energy. Moreover, there was more than one demon king among the Void Demons, so it was natural for him to be defeated. It was already good enough that he was not killed there. After all, many immortals had already fallen so far. Brother Yang, take a rest here. Also, pay attention to whether there are any Void Demons. Take this opportunity to sneak in. Leave the rest to Ben Wang," the Mountain Breaker Emperor said. He did not wait for Xiang to reply before he stepped into the air and left the city. In the void, the battle was still ongoing. Chester struck out with his palm and sent an immortal god flying while coughing up blood. However, there was no joy on his face. Instead, it was filled with shock and uncertainty. Because he clearly remembered. The immortal god that was fighting in front of him had already died in his hands in the previous battle. But now, the other party had appeared again. Apart from being much weaker, there was no difference. Such a change. Even though Chester was experienced and knowledgeable, he could not help but feel shocked. How is this possible? Why aren't you dead? On the day you die, Benoit will naturally tell you. The Shadow Emperor wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and charged towards Chester again. He was an imperial member of the Shadow clan. Back when the Heavenly Court had been established, he had already been part of the Zhou Tian constellation. Although he was not as strong as Chester, he was still a third heaven immortal. Coupled with the Shadow clan's unique techniques, even a middle third heaven true immortal would have to expend some effort to kill him. The Shadow Emperor moved, and his body dissipated like a black fog. The sky was filled with black shadows. When he entered the darkness, it was as if he had completely merged with it. In the void outside. Because there was no light, there was no way to see the existence of shadows. However, just because one could not see a shadow did not mean that it did not exist. Quite the opposite. Only an invisible shadow could exist anywhere. Thus, after the Shadow Emperor used the Shadow clan's ultimate technique, he had completely merged with Chester's shadow. Attacks that were impossible to defend against came from all directions, trying to kill him. You're courting death! The flames of fury in Chester's heart ignited. The long river of laws in his body surged, and a terrifying power swept out in all directions with him as the center. The void collapsed. The indiscriminate attacks swallowed up all the living beings in the surroundings. Some demons of the void fell. Some cultivators of the myriad races also fell. In the instant that the void collapsed, boundless black shadows spread out, and then converged into the Shadow Emperor's body. Just as the Shadow Emperor appeared, Chester's body suddenly disappeared. In the next second, a palm imprinted on the Shadow Emperor's chest. A terrifying power erupted. The Shadow Emperor's body was instantly blasted into pieces. Benoit, let's see if you really can't be killed. Chester looked at the Shadow Emperor's body, which had collapsed. With a wave of his hand, power swept through the void and sealed the Shadow Emperor's body. Next, the power erupted, destroying the Shadow Emperor's last bit of life. Then, Chester took the Shadow Emperor's flesh and blood. The instant he took the Shadow Emperor's flesh and blood, a terrifying power descended from the void. In front of that power, Chester's body was trembling violently. His face was full of shock, as if he had encountered a terrifying existence. Lord Demon Emperor, save me! Chester didn't hesitate and directly asked for help. Just as he finished speaking, a palm stretched out from the depths of the void. At the same time, another palm stretched out. The two palms collided in the air, and the destructive aftermath annihilated everything. Immediately, one of the palms cracked, and blood splattered in the void. When the others reacted, they saw a green-robed figure appear there at some point. Emperor of Heaven! Seeing Qin Shujian appear, the morale of the myriad races was greatly boosted. On the side of the void demons. But they weren't affected at all. It was just that those demon emperors who were watching the battle from behind and didn't make a move without permission had no choice but to appear after Qin Shujian appeared. You've become even stronger! Looking at the person in front of him, Bach's expression was unprecedentedly solemn. In the exchange just now, this made him realize a shocking fact. That was that Qin Shujian's strength had become even stronger than the last time they fought. Although this strength, it was only a negligible increase. But at their level, they could clearly sense even the slightest fluctuation. After the battle, the demon emperors were seriously injured. Their strength wasn't greatly reduced, but they hadn't recovered much either. Looking at the other party again, he was also seriously injured, but now, not only had his injuries healed, but his strength had also improved. Immediately, Qin Shujian's threat was raised by several levels in Bak's heart. Hearing this, Qin Shujian stood with his hands behind his back, his expression indifferent. Where are the other two demon emperors? Why don't you let them come out together? If only you, Bak, are here today, I'm afraid I'll accidentally kill you. His tone wasn't heavy, but to Bak, it was extremely insulting. However, he didn't get angry easily now. The change in Qin Shujian's strength made him a little uncertain. It was also at this moment. Darkness filled the air, and Emo Xiaolua and Yizo appeared at the same time. The appearance of the three demon emperors and Qin Shujian. It directly increased the intense atmosphere on the battlefield by a lot. If the previous battle wasn't as good as the last one, then with the appearance of the top experts on both sides, it wouldn't be any weaker than that battle. Chapter 764. In the Outer Realm. Qin Shujian and the other demon emperors stood opposite each other in the air. No one made the first move. The last time they fought at their peak, the demon emperors were unable to take down Qin Shujian. Now that they were all heavily injured, they did not want to make a move on their own. As for Qin Shujian, although he was strong, he did not have absolute confidence that he could take down a few demon emperors. So, for a moment, the situation was in a stalemate. If you don't want to make a move, then go back to where you came from. Qin Shujian was calm and collected, as if the person standing in front of him was not a demon emperor, but an ordinary person. As soon as he finished speaking, the demon emperors did not say anything. After a while, Bak took a deep look at Qin Shujian, and then a voice sounded in the ears of all the clansmen. Retreat! Immediately, the clansmen of the Bak clan were the first to retreat. At the same time, the clansmen of the Emo Xiaoluo clan and the Yizo clan also retreated at the same time. Qin Shujian watched the three clans retreat and did not have any intention of stopping them. However, when he saw that the cultivators of the myriad clans still wanted to chase after them, he said something. Don't chase after a cornered enemy! Immediately, the cultivators of the myriad clans could not help but stop. Qin Shujian said, Clean up the battlefield and count the losses. Choose a day to start the second round of the selection of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. Cultivators of all clans can go to the fallen immortal realm to participate. When it came to cleaning up the battlefield, Qin Shujian saw that the void could not be any cleaner and could not help but change his words. After saying that, he turned around and entered the heaven and earth passage. From beginning to end, Qin Shujian had only exchanged blows with Bak once when he first appeared. Other than that, he did not make a move again. He was not confident that he could take down Bak and the other demon emperors. Bak and the other demon emperors were not confident that they could defeat him. This way, if the situation had not reached the point where they had no choice but to fight, both sides would not easily erupt into a decisive battle. Because once a decisive battle broke out, even if it was a fiend emperor powerhouse, there was also the possibility of dying. Any demon emperor had existed for countless years. If they died because of this, it would not be the result they wanted. Heavenly Court. The fallen immortals and gods had all been reborn in the investiture of the gods. When he returned to the Heavenly Court, Qin Shujian immediately headed for the sky above the Heavenly Court. There was a projection of Zhou Tian's star diagram, and a vast amount of star power was pouring down from it, bathing the entire Heavenly Court in star power. Emperor of Heaven! Sanhua, who had been quietly resting on Zhou Tian's star map, spoke. Qin Shujian nodded and immediately took out the investiture of the gods. The dozens of stars sealed within were all released at this moment. Boom! The immense pressure crushed the void into smithereens. Qin Shujian was familiar with the process. Without wasting any time, he sealed up the stars. Then, like a gourd drawing a gourd, he placed all the sealed stars into the star cycle map. Originally, there were already many stars in Zhou Tian's star map. Now that there were more than a dozen stars, the overflowing star power instantly more than doubled. The star power was rich. The great wide world was immediately affected. After doing these things, Qin Shujian returned to the heavenly court. The branches and leaves of the osmanthus tree swayed. If one looked carefully, one could see that there were already buds on it, as if they would bloom at any time. Emperor of Heaven is back. Mu Yang transformed and landed in front of Qin Shujian. Qin Shujian nodded slightly. Then, his gaze fell on Mu Yang. You're about to break through to the true immortal realm. Soon. Mu Yang nodded and said respectfully, the star energy in the heavenly court is rich, and my cultivation is much faster than usual. In a few months, I should be able to break through to the true immortal realm. True immortal. Qin Shujian looked at him and said, there are 3 paths to break through to the true immortal realm. They are divided into the derivation of heaven and earth, the sanctification of the physical body, and the final path of the nomological path. You are now at the limit of the heavenly being realm. If you want to walk the path of the derivation of heaven and earth, you need to start from scratch, so there is no need. As for the sanctification of the physical body, Eldar's physical body is not weak, so there is some hope. Do you plan to walk the traditional path of the nomological path, or do you want to try the path of the sanctification of the physical body? The sanctification of the physical body. The path of the nomological path. Mu Yang's face was full of confusion. Although he had the memories of a half-immortal, to be honest, the ancient half-immortals had seen a lot, but that was only relative. When it came to matters at the true immortal realm, there were not many things that a half-immortal could know. Not to mention, the path of the sanctification of the physical body had never appeared in ancient times. Xiao Qingfeng could walk the path of the sanctification of the physical body on his own, but he only had some enlightenment. The real beginning was in this life. Seeing this, Qin Shujian suddenly raised his hand and his index finger landed directly between Mu Yang's eyebrows. Suddenly, a large amount of memories emerged. The impact of the memories almost scattered Mu Yang's incarnation. He retracted his hand. Qin Shujian said, I will teach you the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture. Eldar is naturally afraid of lightning, but if you can temper your body with lightning, the effect will be much stronger than ordinary living beings. Although the sanctification of the physical body will be more powerful than the path of the nomological path, nothing is absolute in the world. Since ancient times, the truly powerful has always been the cultivator himself, and it has nothing to do with the path one takes. So what you want to think is entirely up to you. After saying that, Qin Shujian did not wait for Mu Yang's reply and directly entered the inner hall of the heavenly palace, imparting the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture. He was only interested in Mu Yang's talent. Not everyone who obtained the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture could successfully embark on the path of sanctification of the physical body. As early as a few years ago, the number of cultivators who died under the lightning tribulation was uncountable. Among them, there were also some experts who cultivated supreme techniques like the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture, but they could not escape the fate of death. Therefore, Qin Shujian never imparted the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture without permission. Although for the vast majority of cultivators, an expert who walked the path of sanctification of the physical body was more than twice as strong as an expert who walked the path of the nomological path. This was because not everyone could successfully attain the Tao. Compared to insisting on cultivating the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture, and then dying under the lightning tribulation, it was more appropriate to walk the path of the nomological path. There were so many disciples in the Yuan sect. In the end, Qin Shujian only imparted it to a few dozen people. Mu Yang's talent was not bad, and he was now the emperor of the Eldar in name, so he could also be blessed by the luck of the Eldar. There was a high chance that he could successfully attain the Tao in the future. It was also because of this that Qin Shujian imparted the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Scripture. After all, there was one more expert whose physical body was sanctified. It was equivalent to the combat power of a middle third-level true immortal. Of course, not every expert whose physical body was sanctified could be comparable to a fourth-level true immortal when they were just a first-level true immortal. But even if they were not as good as a fourth-level true immortal, it would not be a problem for them to be comparable to an ordinary third-level true immortal. Chapter 765. Returning to the inner hall of the heavenly palace, Qin Shujian calmed his mind and immediately observed the changes in his inner world. During this period of time, there were frequent strange movements in his inner world. But because he didn't have time, he temporarily suppressed this curiosity. Now, he finally had time to check the changes in his inner world. He was immersed in it. Qin Shujian took in the entire inner world. Unlike when it had just evolved, the current inner heaven and earth had a lot more life-chi dynamics. A large number of living beings were born. Rules were born one after another, causing the world to be in a perfect state. It's a pity that too many of the myriad races have disappeared. I can't see the scene of the myriad races at their peak in the ancient times. Otherwise, I would have the chance to comprehend all the rules of the myriad races. Qin Shujian shook his head regretfully. At their peak, there were definitely more than 10,000 races. But until now, there were only a little more than 1,000 races. If he was at his peak and comprehended all the rules of the myriad races, even if his strength couldn't break through to the Dao fruit level, he would definitely be able to reach the half-step Dao fruit level. Unfortunately, there were no ifs in anything. The decline of the myriad races was inevitable. Perhaps in the years to come, a new race would be born. But that would be a very long time ago. All of a sudden, Qin Shujian realized that he had overlooked something. No, even the rules of the myriad races, I haven't comprehended all of them. I've only comprehended the rules of the gods of the heavenly court. As for those who aren't qualified to enter the heavenly court and obtain the deity position, I haven't truly comprehended them. He had only comprehended the rules of the gods of the heavenly court because in the beginning, the emperors of the myriad races who hadn't entered the heavenly court basically didn't become immortals. Therefore, Qin Shujian didn't comprehend those rules. But it was different now. The number of true immortals of the myriad races wasn't fewer than the gods of the heavenly court. In fact, there was a certain amount more. But because he was busy during this period of time, Qin Shujian didn't think of this matter for a while. Until now. He finally reacted. There was such a large wave of wool waiting for him to harvest. Quite a number of the true immortals of the myriad races have fallen in the two wars. What a pity! If the true immortals of the myriad races hadn't perished, I would have been able to comprehend even more laws. Qin Shujian thought to himself. He had already decided that once the battlefield was cleaned up, he would seek out the true immortals of the myriad races and take the opportunity to comprehend the laws within. At this moment, Qin Shujian had already turned his attention to his inner world. His inner world had expanded significantly, and was now comparable to the size of the eastern continent. Although there was still a gap between it and the other 3 continents, it could already be said to be vast and boundless. Furthermore, Qin Shujian could clearly sense it. His inner world was slowly expanding. However, the speed of expansion had already decreased by a lot. After all, there was a limit to the size of heaven and earth. It was impossible for it to expand endlessly. Although the size of his inner world had not reached the limit of an ordinary medium-class world, it was not far from it. In Qin Shujian's perception, many living beings had already appeared in the inner world. Among them, the strongest was still Jianmu. As the first living being to be born, he was already in the half-immortal realm, and was only one step away from becoming a true immortal. If Jianmu was compared to the first echelon of experts, then the human clans Wind and the other living beings that were born around the same time were considered the second echelon of experts. This group of living beings, they were all mighty figures who had reached the 7th level of the celestial being realm, or above. Then, they were the other living beings that were born. But so far, All the living beings that were born were considered the first living beings of their respective races. Therefore, no matter how weak they were still in the celestial being realm. When living beings are born, the corresponding laws will naturally be born. Right now, only 1 or 2 living beings of each race have been born, so they can be considered unique. If a living being were to fall, this race might be temporarily wiped out. But as long as the laws exist, there will still be a chance in the future to give birth to the corresponding living beings. In this way, I don't have to worry that these living beings will be completely wiped out because of fighting. Qin Shujian's divine will merge with heaven and earth. Everything in the inner world was in his eyes. In his perception, there were already living beings fighting and killing each other. It was just that the strength of both sides was about the same. Although there were losses in the battle, it was not to the extent of dying. In this regard, Qin Shujian watched with an indifferent attitude and had no intention of interfering at all. After briefly observing the changes in the inner world, his mind withdrew from the inner world. In the inner hall of the heavenly palace, on the throne, Qin Shujian opened his eyes. The investiture of the gods on the table rose automatically. The names of the gods of the heavenly court on it suddenly flickered at this moment. From today onwards, all immortals and gods will leave the heavenly court and head to the void of the outer realm to find suitable stars and star cores, Qin Shujian said faintly. When his voice fell into the investiture of the gods, it had already reached the ears of the gods. He was going to go by himself. However, what happened now made Qin Shujian suddenly realize that it was better for him not to leave the great, wide world so easily. Otherwise, if the Void Fiend launched another large-scale attack, perhaps even the heavenly court would be raided by the Fiend Emperor. This was not a joke. Even if the probability was only 1 in 10,000, Qin Shujian did not want to take the risk. Find the star cores of the stars. Emperor Zhao was originally in the void of the outer realm to deal with the follow-up matters and had not completely returned to the heavenly court. After receiving the news, he was stunned for a moment. Then, he came back to his senses. He looked at Dan Hao and said calmly, "Help me deal with the matter of the extraterritorial battlefield. I still have other things to do." "Yes, Your Majesty." Dan Hao did not hesitate, and immediately bowed to accept the order. In the next moment, Emperor Zhao flew into the sky and directly headed toward the void of the outer realm. Earlier, the Emperor of Heaven had already asked them to collect the star cores of the stars. However, because of the time, not many people took action for the time being. However, now that there was news again, it was obvious that the other party was more urgent. Emperor Zhao did not have the possibility of delaying this any longer. Just as Emperor Zhao was leaving, the other immortals and gods also temporarily put down the matters at hand. After giving a simple explanation, they headed toward the void of the outer realm. When the immortals and gods left, in the inner hall of the heavenly palace, a person stepped in and bowed when he saw Qin Shujian. "Ningbo greets the Emperor of Heaven." No need for formalities. "Thank you, Emperor of Heaven." Only then did Ningyu straighten up and look at the throne. Qin Shujian smiled faintly. "You don't have to be too reserved. Although you have now entered the heavenly court and become a heavenly general, you are still my disciple. When there are no outsiders, you can just call me Master." Master!" A smile appeared on Ningbo's solemn face. His originally tense body instantly relaxed a lot. Chapter 766. Qin Shujian looked at him, his eyes seeming to see through him. "You're about to reach the 7th level of the celestial being realm, right? Master's eyes are as sharp as torches. Walking the path of heaven and earth derivation, you don't need to rely on the laws to prove your Tao. As long as you wait until all 129,600 star acupoints are opened, a world will naturally be opened in your body. At that time, your realm will break through to the true immortal realm." Qin Shujian suddenly paused as he spoke. Below, Ningbo did not interrupt, but stood at the side and listened silently. "No, strictly speaking, after heaven and earth derivation, there's a difference from the traditional realm. I've divided the realm after heaven and earth derivation into 3 levels. The first level is the minor kiliacosm. After successfully opening it, compared to the traditional realm, you'll be equivalent to reaching the 4th level of the celestial being realm. The second level is the middle kiliacosm. Once you break through to the middle kiliacosm, your strength will be equivalent to the upper 3 levels of the true immortal realm. As for the last level, it's the greater kiliacosm. Once you step into the greater kiliacosm, your strength will officially break through to the Tao fruit realm. You cultivate the Guyuan ancestral canon, so you should be very clear about the difficulty of opening the star acupoints. It's also because of this difficulty that when other systems break through to the true immortal realm, they'll only reach the first level of the celestial being realm. However, once you succeed in heaven and earth derivation, it'll be equivalent to reaching the 4th level of the celestial being realm. Moreover, a meaningful smile appeared on Qin Shijian's face. When you really break through, you'll realize that the benefits of taking this path are by no means comparable to those of other systems. Therefore, when you're in the celestial being realm, you don't need to comprehend too much of a law. Instead, you should comprehend more different laws as long as it's within your ability. Only in this way can your strength increase greatly the moment you break through. In the heavenly palace, Qin Shijian said slowly. He was now telling Ningbo some of his experiences bit by bit. There was a limit to the celestial being realm. It was definitely not an easy task to open 129,600 star acupoints. However, if he could reach the 6th level of the celestial being realm at Ningbo's age, then the probability of a successful breakthrough in the future was very high. Therefore, he didn't have to worry about spoiling things. Furthermore, after Qin Shijian had taken him in as his disciple, he felt that he rarely paid attention to him. Speaking of which, he was also very unqualified as a master. Now that there was an opportunity, he might as well say a little more. This could also be considered as a form of compensation. After Qin Shijian finished speaking, Ningbo then revealed a grateful expression. Thank you for your guidance, Shizun. The stellar energy in the heavenly court is very dense. It will be of great help to you in opening your stellar acupoints. Cultivate well. Qin Shijian sighed, seeming to be right but actually not. Then, his expression returned to normal as he looked at the other party and said, I'll leave the selection of the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals to you. The assessment criteria will be the same as last time. Anyone who passed the test would be able to enter the heavenly court. At the same time, I confer upon you the title of 1,000 guards. You can command 1,000 heavenly soldiers and 10 heavenly generals. You will temporarily be under the command of the Eastern War God. Thank you, Master. Ningbo bowed and accepted the order. Immediately, Ningbo's name appeared on the investiture of the gods. The moment he left his name on the investiture of the gods, a mighty force from the unseen world descended. Ningbo's body shook slightly. A powerful force had already erupted in his body. One acupoint after another was forcibly opened. After a few breaths, the aura on his body had become much stronger. If it was said that he had already broken through to the 6th level of the celestial being realm, then he was now a little closer to the 7th level of the celestial being realm. Go! Qin Shijian simply waved his hand. Seeing this, Ningbo immediately bowed and retreated. Soon, only Qin Shijian was left in the inner hall of the heavenly palace. Isn't 1,000 guards deity position a little too low? God Slayer could not help but ask. He's only at the 6th level of the celestial being realm. It's already his limit to be able to bear 1,000 guards deity position. Any higher and it won't do him any good. Qin Shijian shook his head. 1,000 guards deity position was barely enough to leave his name on the investiture of the gods. It was still the same sentence. If one wanted to hold the deity position, one had to have the corresponding strength. 6th level of the celestial being realm. In terms of true strength, it was only comparable to an emperor. If it was when the heavenly court was just established, it would be fine. Their luck was not too strong, and the threshold for holding a deity position was much lower. But now, it was different. The powerhouses of the myriad races appeared one after another, and the heavenly court's luck also rose sharply. Such a change. It caused the power that the deity position could give to become stronger and stronger. But at the same time, the threshold for holding a deity position also increased correspondingly. Fortunately, Ningbo had broken through to the 6th level of the celestial being realm. Otherwise, with his original realm, he would not be qualified to hold this deity position. Let's go and have a chat with the true immortals of the myriad races. Qin Shujian shook his head. His body had already quietly disappeared from the heavenly palace. The ice race's secret realm. At this moment, the entrance to the secret realm was no longer closed. It was not just the ice race. The entrances to the secret realms of the other races had never been closed after the heavenly court was established. The secret realms that were originally closed. This was because the spiritual qi in the secret realms could allow the cultivators of the races to cultivate. But it was different now. With the stars shining on the 4 great continents, the density of the energy between heaven and earth completely surpassed the secret realms of the other races. In this way, if the secret realms were to be sealed again, it would be neglecting the essentials. After the death of the previous Ice Emperor, there was a short period of chaos in the Ice clan. Then, there was a new Ice Emperor who succeeded the throne. In fact, not many people would remember the original name of the emperor of each race. Because the name of the emperor already represented everything. Just like the previous Ice Emperor, not many people really knew his name. When they talked about it, most of them used the previous Ice Emperor as a substitute. In the Ice clan's main hall, the current Ice Emperor was silently cultivating. The void trembled slightly. Qin Shujian was already standing in the main hall, but the Ice Emperor still didn't notice anything. It wasn't until Qin Shujian deliberately leaked some of his aura. The Ice Emperor suddenly woke up. When he saw the person in the main hall clearly, a panicked expression immediately appeared on his face. Then, he stood up from the throne. He walked in front of Qin Shujian. He bowed down. Greetings, Emperor of Heaven. Ice Emperor, there's no need to be so polite. Thank you, Emperor of Heaven. The Ice Emperor stood up and looked at Qin Shujian. He asked tentatively, Emperor of Heaven, what brings you to my Ice clan this time? As he spoke, his heart was also a little moved. A few years ago, when the power of the stars was rich, the Ice Emperor had already broken through to the true immortal realm. If it was in the past. If a race had a true immortal expert, it would be enough to become a big race. But it was different now. Although true immortals were experts, they weren't that rare. In addition, the Ice clan had lost a lot of strength because of the previous battles, causing their strength to decline a lot. Chapter 767. At this moment, the Ice clan? They were only a medium-sized clan and did not have the qualifications to become a big clan. Only by entering the heavenly court and holding a deity position could the Ice clan rise. Therefore, the Ice Emperor had always wanted to enter the heavenly court. But unfortunately, there were limited deity positions in the heavenly court. Although he was a true immortal expert, he was not the strongest among the true immortals. There were many true immortals among the 10,000 clans, but only a small number of experts could enter the heavenly court. Therefore, even though the Ice Emperor had thoughts in his heart, he was not confident. Until now. Qin Shujian's sudden arrival made the Ice Emperor have many thoughts. Coming out of the game cabin, Fu Moyan's expression was still a little absent-minded. Not long ago, he had received shocking news in the game. Before he could calm down for long, a great battle with the Void Demons broke out. Until now, he didn't have time to digest all the news. Wait! Where's Tianyu? Fu Moyan's entire body shivered. He instantly calmed his mind and observed his sea of consciousness. As expected, amidst the chaotic sea of consciousness, he saw a jade talisman lying there quietly. Tian Yu. When he saw the jade talisman, Fu Moyan's heart trembled again. Very much. Tian Yu really came out with him. His breathing gradually became rapid, and his chest rose and fell violently. He couldn't calm down for a long time. In that case, the Emperor of Heaven really has a way to kill players. Fu Moyan lost his voice and muttered to himself. Originally, he was only half convinced by Qin Shijian's words. The reason for his fear was because he didn't dare to gamble on that probability. But now, Fu Moyan no longer doubted it. Tian Yu could appear in the real world with him. That proved that Qin Shijian's methods could really penetrate the game and reality. No! That's no longer a game! I was wondering why the cultivation level increased in the game could affect reality. It turns out that it's really a real world. Fu Moyan took a few deep breaths, but his heart was even more excited. He felt as if he had discovered a new continent. It was unbearably exciting. Fu Moyan understood. The moment Tian Yu really appeared in his sea of consciousness, there would be a turning point in his life. He looked at Tian Yu. Fu Moyan had no intention of taking it out for a look. According to Qin Shijian, if Tian Yu were to appear in the real world, she would definitely attract the attention of certain existences. When that time comes, he would be obliterated by such an existence. After Tian Yu appeared with him, Fu Moyan no longer dared to question the authenticity of Qin Shijian's words. Even if he had suspicions in his heart, he did not dare to test it out. If something really happened, he wouldn't even have a place to cry. He turned around and glanced at the gaming capsule. Fu Moyan walked out of the room and saw a woman in her 30s or 40s packing her things. After seeing him come out, the woman stood up and greeted politely. "Young Master Fu! I need to use the secret room for a few days. Don't let anyone disturb me. If anyone comes looking for me, help me reject them," Fu Moyan said calmly. "All right." The woman's manner remained respectful. Fu Moyan didn't say anything else. Instead, he left the hall and headed to the basement. He had some status in the real world. His parents were businessmen and owned a lot of assets. And the place he was currently living in was an expensive villa. Because of the game, Fu Moyan didn't like to be disturbed, so he moved here alone. Other than a nanny who was in charge of food and living, there was no third person. After arriving at the basement, the originally dim environment suddenly brightened up. The basement wasn't big, but it basically had everything that should be there. Fu Moyan walked to one side of the wall and entered the password casually. Then, he saw the wall vibrate gently. It actually opened to the left and right like two doors. Just as he stepped into the secret room, the door that was originally open also closed automatically. Compared to the basement, the secret room in front of him was even smaller. Other than a futon in the middle, there was nothing else. This secret room. It was specially built by Fu Moyan after the recovery of Spirit Aura. The purpose was, it was to be used for his cultivation. After all, leveling up in the game didn't mean that he would have the corresponding strength in the real world. The level of the game. It could only speed up his cultivation progress when he was cultivating in the real world. It wouldn't directly increase his realm. Therefore, Fu Moyan needed the existence of a secret room to allow himself to cultivate the cultivation method he got in the game. He walked to the futon and then sat down cross-legged. After sitting down cross-legged, Fu Moyan's mind sank into his body. Then, he recalled the Purple Heaven Thunder scripture in his mind and began to transform his original cultivation method bit by bit toward the Purple Heaven Thunder scripture. The cultivation method he originally cultivated was not of a low level, but it was definitely not of a high level. It couldn't be compared with the Purple Heaven Thunder scripture at all. Fu Moyan naturally wouldn't let go of the supreme cultivation method and continue to cultivate those useless cultivation methods. Transforming the cultivation method. It wasn't an easy thing to do. It was just that Fu Moyan's realm wasn't high. He was only at the 8th level of the real martial arts realm. So, the transformation wasn't too difficult. It only took him 8 or 9 days. He transformed all the cultivation methods he originally cultivated into the Purple Heaven Thunder scripture. On the futon, Fu Moyan suddenly opened his eyes. Suddenly, there was a faint purple light looming in the narrow secret room. Accompanied by the appearance of the purple light, there was a faint flash of thunder. Electricity in a virtual room! The Purple Heaven Thunder scripture is really extraordinary! There was a carefree smile on Fu Moyan's face. With his original realm, there was no way to cause such an abnormal phenomenon as electricity in a virtual room when he cultivated. Now, there was such a change just after the transformation of the Purple Heaven Thunder scripture. For this, Fu Moyan was even more satisfied. Then, he focused his attention on himself again. The 6th level of the real martial arts realm is 2 levels lower than before the transformation. However, although my realm has dropped, my real strength shouldn't have. Fu Moyan thought to himself. He didn't really fight, so he couldn't estimate his current strength much. But with his experience in the game, Fu Moyan could basically guess. Although he was now at the 6th level of the real martial arts realm, he was definitely not weaker than the original 8th level of the real martial arts realm. Even his strength could be better. Then, Fu Moyan calmed down and began to communicate with Tianyu. There was a price for him to get the upper part of the Purple Heaven Thunder scripture. And if he wanted to get the follow-up benefits, he had to complete the corresponding task. Tianyu was the bridge of communication. Chapter 768. He had not broken through to the spirit martial realm. The sea of consciousness had not been opened and was still in chaos. Naturally, there was no way to give birth to a spirit god. However, cultivators in the real martial realm had already begun to nurture a spirit god, which was also their divine thoughts. So, it was not difficult for Fu Moyan to use his divine thoughts to communicate with the Tianyu. When his divine thoughts touched the Tianyu, suddenly, then, he saw the silent heavenly jade tremble slightly. Qin Shijian's illusory figure had already appeared within it. Emperor of Heaven! Fu Moyan was stunned. He did not expect that the Tianyu would directly transform into Qin Shijian's figure. Just as his mind was in shock, Qin Shijian seemed to have seen the surrounding environment, and immediately said with a faint smile, I am not the real Emperor of Heaven. I am just an incarnation of a wisp of power. You can treat me as an NPC who issues tasks. Remember, you must not let the Tianyu be exposed in the real world. Otherwise, even if I take action, I will not be able to protect you. Similarly, if you have any questions about cultivation, you can also ask. If I can answer them, I will naturally answer them for you. Yes, Emperor of Heaven! Fu Moyan was a little excited in his heart. Although this incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven said that he was very useless, only he himself knew how useful the incarnation of the other party's power was. With this incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven in the Sea of Consciousness, it was equivalent to having an experienced expert. Even if this expert could not exert much strength, it did not matter. Because just that rich cultivation experience alone was an immeasurable treasure. Fu Moyan believed. If he had the guidance of the Emperor of Heaven's incarnation, his cultivation of the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture would definitely increase greatly. At this moment, the smile of the Emperor of Heaven's incarnation faded a little. You have received benefits from me and have to do things for me. According to the original agreement, you need to help me get rid of some people. May I know who the Emperor of Heaven wants to get rid of? Fu Moyan asked in a deep voice. The incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven did not answer. Instead, he asked, Does your world have a name? Originally, there weren't any. However, due to the existence of the player world such as the Great Desolate World, someone in our world named it. What name? Heavenly Wasteland World. The Tianhuang Macro World? The incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven looked puzzled. The naming of a world was not so casual. The naming of any world. There was a reason behind it. Fu Moyan said, I heard that before the Dharma ending age, the Tianhuang Great World was called the Desolation Era. During the Desolation Era, there was a supreme organization called the Heavenly Alliance. However, due to the fact that the Desolate Great World already existed, the Heavenly Alliance and the Desolate Great World each had a character. Heavenly Alliance! The eyes of the Emperor of Heaven's clone flickered. Although he was the incarnation of Qin Shujian, he had the same memories as Qin Shujian. While chatting with Chu Kuangtu, I once heard from him that he left behind an organization called the Heaven Alliance in the real world. Now, after hearing what Fu Moyan said, the incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven was almost certain that the Heaven Alliance mentioned by Fu Moyan was the Heaven Alliance left behind by Chu Kuangtu. Good heavens! If he knew that the Heaven Alliance he left behind could become the basis for the naming of a world, he would be overjoyed. The incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven secretly complained. However, he did not show any abnormality. The Tianhuang Macro World, that's a good name. He nodded slightly and then said, "When you sink your mind into the Heaven Jade, you can find the target you want to deal with on it. However, due to the limitation of the power of the Tianhuang Macro World, the range of the Heaven Jade's perception is limited. At most, with your body as the starting point, it can perceive the area within a radius of about 10 miles. Therefore, if you want to detect and find a suitable target, you can't stay in one place." Can't stay in one place? Fu Moyan's divine thought trembled. This was a little different from what he had expected. Originally, Fu Moyan thought that it would only take a little time to complete the task. However, if it was like what the incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven said, he would have almost no free time. In this way, there was no way to enter the game. He had some concerns in his heart. Fu Moyan could not help but ask, "If I can't stay in one place, does that mean I can't enter the game? Why do you enter the game?" The incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven had a strange look in his eyes, as if he was looking at a fool. It was a sudden question. Fu Moyan's expression froze for a moment. "Why do I enter the game? Of course, I'm going in to level up. Only by leveling up in the game could my cultivation speed increase in real life." Although he was already a cultivator at the peak of the God martial arts realm in the game, in real life, the cultivation of the real martial arts realm would greatly increase. However, if he could break through the celestial being realm, or even the true immortal realm, then the increase would be even greater. Just as Fu Moyan was about to speak, the incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven continued, "Your purpose of entering the game is to cultivate faster in real life. Now that you have my guidance, how can your cultivation be slow? Besides, you don't need to spend too much time entering the game. As long as you enter regularly, I will naturally give you the corresponding cultivation method, as well as the corresponding crystal stone. When the time comes, you just need to focus on transcending the tribulation and breaking through to the next realm. Moreover, with the 60,000 true immortal merit points that you originally obtained, the resources you exchanged might not be enough to break through to the true immortal realm, but it's almost enough to cultivate to the level of a mighty figure. In that case, why are you in a hurry to enter the game?" The words of the incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven. Fu Moyan felt as if he had been enlightened. That's right. Why do I enter the game? Isn't the purpose of entering the game to improve the realm of the game, and then cultivate in real life? Now that he had the guidance of the incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven and the support of the Emperor of Heaven in the game, he could directly swallow the experience stone when the time came. There was no need for him to painstakingly fight monsters to level up like before. At this moment, Fu Moyan finally completely changed from his original thinking of a country bumpkin. Until now, he suddenly realized that he was no longer an ordinary player. With the huge backing of the Emperor of Heaven, he was completely different from other players. Fighting monsters to level up, that was already a thing of the past. If he really wanted to level up, he could just swallow the crystal stone. Even if he couldn't swallow the crystal stone, it didn't matter. With the strength of the Emperor of Heaven, he would be able to obtain a huge amount of experience points by casually crippling a true immortal's monster for him to grind. With such a backdoor, it was a complete waste of time to stay up late every day to enter the game to do missions and fight monsters to level up. I was wrong. Fu Moyan's mind calmed down. Then, he followed the instructions of the Emperor of Heaven's incarnation and once again sank his divine consciousness into the heavenly jade. Soon, the corresponding information emerged from the heavenly jade. Chapter 769. There was only an illusory map imprinted in Fu Moyan's mind. He glanced at it briefly and recognized the scene on the map. It was his residence. The scene within a radius of 10 miles. But other than the simple scene, there was no extra information presented. The Emperor of Heaven's incarnation said, "Obviously, there is no suitable target within a radius of 10 miles from where you are now. I suggest you change your place. I'll make some preparations." Fu Moyan nodded and then stood up from the futon. He couldn't leave just like that. He still had to make some necessary preparations. He came out of the secret room. Fu Moyan gave a few simple instructions to the nanny, then informed his parents, and then directly left the residence. Although there was no powerful forging master born in the Tianhuang Great World, there was no way to realize the storage ring in the game. However, in any world, as long as one had money, it was enough to run amok. Therefore, what Fu Moyan meant by prepare was that they had to bring enough money before heading out. The outside world was very big. Aircraft could be seen everywhere in an orderly manner. In addition to that, there were even more cultivators who chose to fly in the air. In the past, before the recovery of spirit aura, the human race relied on all kinds of transportation to travel. But now, as long as the spirit aura recovered, as long as the cultivators were strong enough, they would generously rely on flying. Even if there was no way to truly fly because of the limitation of strength. But to a certain extent, it was still not a big problem. If it wasn't for the recovery of spirit aura in your world, it should have taken another path. The Emperor of Heaven's incarnation existed in Fu Moyan's sea of consciousness, but he also had a panoramic view of everything in the outside world. It had to be said. The vast expanse world had made considerable progress in terms of science and technology. In his long memory, he had also reincarnated in a world where there was only pure technology and no cultivation. However, there was a big gap between those worlds that only had technology and the Tianhuang Great World in front of him. Fu Moyan's body and vital essence vibrated. He took a step forward and his body shot out into the distance. A lot of scenery. They had all disappeared from his side. With the revival of spiritual qi, cultivators can fly in the sky and burrow into the ground. The power they possess is not comparable to that of the past. Without the revival of spiritual qi, the Tianhuang macro world would have no way to compete with other worlds. Upon hearing the words of the Emperor of Heaven's incarnation, Fu Moyan shook his head. In his opinion, the power of science and technology was ultimately limited. There was no way it could be compared to cultivation. Not to mention anything else. Just those true martial realm cultivators who had cultivated the internal and external invulnerability realm were able to ignore the attacks of most weapons. If they were able to break through to the spirit god realm and the airborne realm, then they could be said to be extraordinary. In the future, if someone were to break through to the sky human true immortal level, they might not be able to destroy the world with a wave of their hand, but they definitely wouldn't be far off. Therefore, Fu Moyan now scoffed at the original technological power of the Tianhuang Great World. Hearing this, the Emperor of Heaven's clone said calmly, "No system can be underestimated. Regardless of whether it's the cultivation system or the technological system, as long as one reaches the limits, all paths lead to the same destination. You think that the power of science and technology can't be compared to the power of cultivation. It's only because the technological system of the Tianhuang Great World hasn't really reached a peak. Just like the cultivators, if the limit of the cultivators in this world is the true martial realm, How can they compete with technology? Could it be that the Emperor of Heaven has seen the peak of the technological system? I haven't seen it, but although I haven't seen it, I can understand this principle. When you break through to a certain level in the future, you will naturally understand. The Emperor of Heaven's incarnation said in a calm tone. He hadn't really seen the peak of the technological system, but he could also deduce it. As an existence at the Tao fruit level, it wasn't difficult for him to understand the principle that all paths lead to the same destination. Not long after, the heavenly jade vibrated gently. In Fu Moyan's mind, an illusory map appeared. But it was different from before. On the illusory map, there was suddenly a small red dot. And that red dot was still moving slowly and was about to leave the range of the map. The target has appeared. Find the location of that red dot. The Emperor of Heaven's incarnation said in a deep voice. Hearing that, Fu Moyan didn't hesitate. He immediately rushed in the direction of the red dot according to the map. The two were originally several miles apart, but it didn't take long for this range to be reduced a lot. In the end, Fu Moyan stopped. In front of him, it was a large shopping mall. Many people were going in and out, and that red dot directly stopped at this position. Looking at the crowd in front of him, Fu Moyan looked troubled. God, there are so many people. How can I find the target? He originally wanted to say the Emperor of Heaven. But considering the current environment, he stopped in time. Although it wouldn't be a problem even if he directly called the Emperor of Heaven, it might attract the attention of others. He had scruples about his identity as a world trader. Fu Moyan still didn't want too many people to know his secret. Even if it was just a faint suspicion, he didn't want it to appear. The Emperor of Heaven's incarnation said, If you want to talk to me, you don't have to speak directly. You can just use your divine thought. As for the specific method, I will teach you now. After that, before Fu Moyan could react, an unfamiliar memory appeared in his mind. Not long after, Fu Moyan digested this memory and immediately grasped the method of communicating with divine thought. There were differences in communicating with divine thought. When he used divine thought to communicate with divine thought earlier, he needed to completely calm down and then abandon everything in the outside world. Only when he was fully focused could he use divine thought to communicate with divine thought. Such a method, as long as a cultivator broke through to the spirit god realm, they could use it. The Emperor of Heaven's incarnation teaching him now was equivalent to letting Fu Moyan master this method in advance. The target is here, but Tianyu's power can't be leaked too much, so there's no way to accurately determine who it is. You'd better slowly identify it according to the changes in the red dot. That's the only way. Fu Moyan replied with his divine thought. At the same time, he was also strolling in the shopping mall, but he didn't leave the range of the red dot. More than half an hour later, the red dot finally left its original position. Seeing this, Fu Moyan immediately put down the things in his hand and chased after the red dot. Not long after, he locked onto a target. It was a middle-aged man in casual clothes. He couldn't tell anything from his face, but Fu Moyan was sure that it was the target he was looking for. For safety's sake, Fu Moyan didn't attack immediately. Instead, he followed behind the man faintly, looking for an opportunity to attack. Chapter 770. On the Other Side. When Fu Moyan returned to reality with Tianyu, Qin Shujian also sensed it. The current him. He was challenging people in the 4 major continents. As long as it was a race with a perfected immortal, regardless of the size of the force, Qin Shujian would personally visit them. In less than 10 days. In his inner world, there were already 3 more nomological seeds. The birth of nomological seeds. Not only did it mean that his inner world was perfected, but it also meant that Qin Shujian's strength was steadily increasing. Although after breaking through to the 9th level of immortal, pure nomological seeds could only increase one's strength by a limited amount. But no matter how limited it was still a real increase. The nomological seeds have been born, What's left is to let the living beings in the inner world cultivate the nomological seeds and let them grow into towering trees. Only then can my strength have a big breakthrough. Qin Shujian thought to himself. The current middle world in his inner world was completely supported by a large number of nomological laws. But strictly speaking, so far, no nomological laws in his inner world had truly grown to the peak. No nomological laws could compare to the nomological laws of the atmospheric world. Not to mention completely comparable, even 1/10 of it was far from enough. This was because the nomological laws that Qin Shujian comprehended when he was a heavenly being were only superficial compared to the original nomological laws of heaven and earth. The nomological seeds that he comprehended later were just seeds. The current inner world. It was equivalent to a pot of seeds that had just sprouted, but it still had a very long way to go before it grew into a towering tree. Similarly, it was almost impossible to rely on a large number of nomological seeds to break through from the inner world to the greater world. Even if it was possible, that kind of Tao fruit was probably the weakest Tao fruit. Therefore, it was not enough to just accumulate nomological seeds. Enough powerhouses had to be born in the inner world to open up the nomological seeds and let the nomological laws grow. However, Qin Shujian could not do this now. The only thing he could do was to comprehend the nomological seeds. The rest would be left to the living beings in the inner world. The seeds have been planted in the Tianhuang Great World, but there is not much news about the other great worlds. I have to wait and see. Qin Shujian looked into the distance with deep eyes. The power incarnation he left in heavenly jade was connected to his mind. In other words, in the Tianhuang macro world, everything obtained by the incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven would be fed back to the original body. It was not an easy task to connect reality and falsehood. Qin Shujian was able to do this. It was also because in the Third Era, when he was facing life and death, he had comprehended a faint amount of true power. Otherwise, he had no way to plant the power incarnation in Fu Moyan's body. The so-called heavenly jade was just an extremely simple jade talisman. True means. This was the power that Qin Shujian had left in the heavenly jade. Kill! The more you kill, the better. Kill all the sons of fate in the Tianhuang macro world. Qin Shujian's eyes turned cold. The next second, he had already left and was heading towards the next race. Time waits for no one. Although he could not strengthen the laws, comprehending more laws was always useful. Not to mention breaking through the Tao fruit. Even if he could only enter the half-step Tao fruit level, that would be enough. Otherwise, facing the power of the demon abyss, Qin Shujian was not completely confident. Just as the seed of laws was born in the inner world, there was also a shocking change. In the sky that was originally normal, a thunder tribulation was formed. And below the thunder tribulation, the mother stream of laws was born. Amidst the mountain range, the builder tree soared into the sky. The law that seemed to have solidified had already landed on his body. At this moment, all the living beings in the inner world were looking at Jianmu. Although they were unable to see what exactly was there, they were able to clearly sense a frightening oppressive might engulfing the area. Is there a living being about to break through to the true immortal realm? A middle-aged man in a green robe was standing on the top of the mountain, looking into the distance with a solemn gaze. As the first human in the world, when Feng was born, he had inherited the memories of the world. He was also very clear about the realm that Qin Shujian had set. However, he had traveled in the inner world for a long time and had fought with many experts, but they were all in the heavenly realm. None of them were qualified to touch the true immortal realm. Now, there was someone breaking through to the true immortal realm. It was impossible for Feng to say that he did not have any thoughts at all. Not long after, the thunder tribulation had already fallen. The terrifying power of the thunder tribulation, even if they were hundreds of millions of miles away, made the expressions of those experts change. Thunder tribulation! This is the thunder tribulation for breaking through to the true immortal realm. Rumor has it that there are a total of 3 systems for breaking through to the true immortal realm, but only the physical sanctification system will encounter the thunder tribulation when breaking through. It seems that person is going on the 2nd system. Feng's expression kept changing. High-grade evolution of heaven and earth, mid-grade physical sanctification, low-grade nomological Tao. If there was a choice, he naturally wanted to take the best route. But there was one thing to understand. Knowing what path to take did not necessarily mean that one would be able to take it. For example, the evolution of heaven and earth system. Feng knew that this system was the best way to break through, but he had no idea how to evolve heaven and earth. Not to mention evolving heaven and earth. Even if it was physical sanctification and nomological Tao. He did not have any experience to speak of. Because heaven and earth had never given birth to a true immortal, there was no reference to speak of. There was only an illusory realm there. Doing so, it was equivalent to opening up a path for oneself. One could imagine how difficult it was. Right now, there was an expert who walked the physical sanctification system and attracted the thunder tribulation. Regardless of whether the other party succeeded in breaking through, at least it could let Feng have a glimpse of the path ahead. Rumble, shocking thunder resounded, causing the hearts of the living beings in the inner world to tremble. It was normal thunder. It should not have spread so far. But at this moment, when the thunder fell, it was as if it was supported by the power of heaven and earth, causing the heaven and earth to shake. Thunder tribulation! Jianmu looked at the thunder tribulation falling from above, and there was no fear in his heart. The spirit chi in the heaven and earth swarmed and condensed, forming a bright green barrier that covered him inside. Boom! The thunder tribulation bombarded, shaking the green barrier violently. Then, the overflowing thunder fell along the green barrier and landed on Jianmu. In an instant, Jianmu's originally dark body was quietly dyed with a faint purple color. And as the thunder fell more and more, the purple color also became more intense. In the purple-black color, there was a faint Tao rune circulating. Chapter 771. Jianmu was transcending the tribulation. It was a very common thing. Qin Shujian had already sensed it the moment he transcended the tribulation. Regarding this, he had no intention of interfering. As the first living creature in the true sense of the inner world, the Builder Tree had been blessed by the heavens since its birth. In terms of foundation, in fact, he was not weaker than Emperor Zhao and Shao Chunfeng in the great, wide world. To a certain extent, he had a tendency to surpass them. Although the immortal ascension tribulation was powerful, in Qin Shujian's opinion, it could not do anything to Jianmu. Taking a step back, if Jianmu really failed to transcend the tribulation despite having such an advantage, it could only prove that he was not worthy of being nurtured. Therefore, no matter how one looked at it, Qin Shujian had no reason to interfere. Although Jianmu is on the path of physical sanctification, it's still a good thing that he can become an immortal. At least he can guide the way forward for other living beings and let them know how to become a true immortal. To be honest, compared to physical sanctification, Qin Shujian was more willing to let the living beings in the inner world walk the path of nomological Tao. Because the nomological Tao system was the real way to nurture the inner world. The system that evolved the inner world was to remove oneself from the inner world and become an independent existence. The physical sanctification system was equivalent to the thief of the inner world. Of course, the so-called thieves were only thieves to a certain extent. No matter what, Jianmu was a living being born in the inner world and was closely related to the inner world. As long as his strength increased, the inner world could capture the overflowing power and deepen the foundation of the inner world. After all, the strength of the inner world. It was not enough to have powerful rules, but it also had to have a matching living being. Otherwise, such an inner world would just be an empty shell. And when necessary, as the ruler of the inner world, Qin Shujian could also borrow the power of the living beings in the inner world for his own use. It won't be long before other true immortals are born in the inner world. The birth of true immortals. It would allow the foundation of the inner world to experience an explosive growth. Such a good thing, Qin Shujian had no reason to refuse. Shortly after, he collected his thoughts and looked at the true immortal in front of him. "Greetings, Emperor of Heaven!" Mu Linghuang was trembling a little. Qin Shujian's sudden visit gave him a lot of pressure. For no reason at all. Why did this Emperor of Heaven not stay in the heavenly court and come to Eldar Wood? Now that the 10,000 races were united, even if Eldar Wood had some grudges with the human race, the other party should not have come to settle the score. Because there were so many races that were against the human race. However, after the establishment of the heavenly court, he had never heard of the Emperor of Heaven taking revenge on anyone. However, even so, right now, Mu Linghuang was feeling a little apprehensive. "Mu Linghuang, there's no need to be nervous. We didn't come here to cause trouble for you. We have something that we need your help with." Qin Shujian could tell what Mu Linghuang was thinking at a glance. Then, he spoke calmly. Wood Eldar's rule. He already had it. However, what Mu Linghuang followed was not a simple Wood Eldar rule. It was the Wood Eldar's Emperor rule. This was something that Qin Shujian did not have. Seriously speaking, actually, Wood Eldar and Eldar sounded very similar, but they were two completely different races. Wood Eldar was a race that was born from the wood spirits of heaven and earth. They belonged to the 5 elements of heaven and earth. Eldar was the spiritual intelligence of plants and trees. There was a fundamental difference between the two. The inner world could give birth to living beings on the premise that the 5 elements of heaven and earth, as well as the power of yin and yang, were perfect. Therefore, Qin Shujian did not lack the wood spirit rule. What he lacked was Mu Linghuang's rule. "Emperor of Heaven, what orders do you have? Feel free to speak your mind." Mu Linghuang was stunned for a moment before he replied respectfully. "It's very simple. I hope that Mu Linghuang can fight with me in the long river of rules, regardless of the outcome. Emperor of Heaven, please spare my life." Mu Linghuang's legs went soft, and he almost knelt down. A battle in the long river of rules. The other party wanted his life. Mu Linghuang was confident that after he broke through to the true immortal realm, his strength was strong enough. However, he was also clear about the gap between his strength and Qin Shujian's. A level 1 immortal. An upper level 3 true immortal. The latter did not need to spend much effort to kill the former. At this moment, Mu Linghuang did not care about his face anymore. Anyway, there was only him and Qin Shujian in the hall. There was nothing embarrassing about admitting defeat. Seeing how he almost knelt down, Qin Shujian was also speechless. "Don't worry, I'm just sparring with you. I won't take your life. Moreover, if I really want to kill you, who can stop me, Eldar Mu?" Qin Shujian's words were straightforward, but the meaning was also very obvious. After a short moment of panic, Mu Linghuang came back to his senses. "Is what Emperor of Heaven said true? I've always kept my word." Qin Shujian's face revealed a smile that he thought was gentle. Seeing this, Mu Linghuang's heart, which had been hanging in the air, calmed down a little. As long as it was not to settle scores and take his life, it was fine. As for the rest, he could accept it. "Let's go. Enter your Mu Linghuang's rule battle." Qin Shujian did not want to waste time. Mu Linghuang nodded. He stretched out his hand and tore the void. Mu Linghuang's rule loomed. Then, he stepped into the crack in the void and disappeared from the hall. Just as Mu Linghuang entered the crack, Qin Shujian also entered the crack. Mu Linghuang's rule. After the long river of rules sensed that there was an outsider invading, it immediately surged with stormy waves. However, those waves were no threat to Qin Shujian at all. No matter how the waves rose, just as they were about to touch him, they seemed to be pressed down by an invisible hand and fell back into the river below. Seeing this scene, Mu Linghuang's pupils contracted slightly. As the controller of the rules, he knew what kind of resistance would be encountered when an outsider intruded. However, the counterattack of the long river of rules did not make Qin Shujian reveal any clues. Such strength, the shock in the depths of the Wood Spirit Emperor's heart grew even stronger. Qin Shujian stood with his hands behind his back and said calmly, Mu Linghuang, go ahead. Don't hold back. As long as you can let me gain something from this battle, it's enough. In the future, if the Heavenly Court can condense a new deity position, Eldar Mu will also have a chance to be conferred a deity position. Conferred a deity position? Mu Linghuang's pupils suddenly contracted again. Qin Shujian's words completely ignited the excitement in his heart. Even if the chance of getting a deity position was very slim, there was still hope no matter what. Suddenly, Mu Linghuang cupped his hands. Emperor of Heaven, please enlighten me. Make your move. Excuse me. With that, Mu Linghuang took the lead. Chapter 772. The two of them were fighting in the long river of laws. Although Mu Linghuang had just stepped into the first level immortal realm, he was not weak in terms of strength. After all, Mu Linghuang's laws. He stood out from the Wood Spirit Law and was above the Wood Spirit Law. As for the Wood Spirit Law, as the law of the 5 elements of heaven and earth, it was an extremely powerful one. Therefore, the strength of the Wood Spirit Emperor was evident from this. If not for the fact that Mu Eldar's overall strength was weak, he would be qualified to join the ranks of the big clans and not be like now, where he could only be at the standard of a middle-level clan. Boom! The two bodies collided with each other and separated abruptly. Qin Shujian sealed 99% of his power, leaving only a little power to fight with Mu Linghuang. Mu Linghuang's law. To a certain extent, it was much more difficult to comprehend than other ordinary laws. Because of the law of the emperor of a clan, not everyone could comprehend it. If one was also a wood spirit, it would be much easier to comprehend Mu Linghuang's law. However, if an outsider tried to forcefully comprehend Mu Linghuang's law, the difficulty would increase exponentially. Therefore, after 3 days of fighting, Qin Shujian only had a slight understanding in his heart. However, it was not so easy to completely comprehend Mu Linghuang's law and nurture a law seed in his inner world. He gained something from the battle. It was not just Qin Shujian, even Mu Linghuang himself had gained a lot. After breaking through to the perfected immortal realm, every step forward required a huge opportunity. As a 9th-level immortal powerhouse, Qin Shujian, even if he suppressed his strength, endless Tao runes appeared in his every move. Regarding this, the Wood Spirit Emperor also understood. After understanding the benefits of fighting with this Emperor of Heaven, Mu Linghuang worked even harder. After all, there were such benefits. It wasn't something that could happen every time. Under normal circumstances, if he really fought with such a level of existence, not to mention a few days and nights, he would be considered lucky if he was not killed in a second. Just like now. Qin Shujian suppressed his strength to fight with him. For the Wood Spirit Emperor, this was the best thing that could happen. Time passed bit by bit. Even if Qin Shujian suppressed most of his strength, he still gradually suppressed Mu Linghuang. The longer the battle lasted. With regards to the comprehension of the laws, he also had a deeper understanding. Suddenly, his inner world shook slightly. Qin Shujian unsealed his powers in an instant and suppressed the Wood Spirit Emperor. His terrifying powers tore through the restraints of the River of Rules. Then, the two figures completely disappeared in the long River of Laws. Wood Spirit Clan's main hall. Qin Shujian and Mu Linghuang's figures until they came out of the long River of Laws. Mu Linghuang's eyes were still in a daze. He was completely unable to react to what had happened. After half a breath, Mu Linghuang's sluggish mind completely returned to normal, and then he bowed. Emperor of Heaven's means are earth-shattering. Ben Huang is sincerely convinced. Mu Linghuang, you're too polite. I have other things to do, so I won't stay any longer. After comprehending Mu Linghuang's laws, Qin Shujian was in a good mood. After saying that, his body suddenly disappeared on the spot. When Mu Ling Huang straightened up, he found that Qin Shujian had left without him knowing. The taboos in the entire hall did not have any effect. Mu Ling Huang could not help but sigh. Emperor of Heaven's strength is not something we can guess. At this moment, in his inner world, Mu Ling Huang's laws were born. At the same time, the thunder tribulation that fell was almost at its end. The originally lush giant tree had now become withered and yellow under the thunder tribulation, as if it had failed to pass the tribulation. But if one felt it seriously, one could find it. Under the withered and yellow surface, there was a strong vitality emerging. That vitality, from the original weak to the strong, and then to the earth-shattering. Crack, a crisp sound came from the withered tree. Then, the skin of the withered tree cracked open, and bright and rich vitality overflowed from it. The other plants that had fallen into silence because of the thunder tribulation were now covered by this rich vitality, and they were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. The skin of the withered tree fell off. Then, a giant tree rose from the ground and instantly disappeared into the sky. The giant tree that was 1,000,000 feet tall could be said to be indomitable. The dense and lush branches and leaves spread out like a huge canopy, covering the long mountain range. At the same time, vast power spread out. Golden flowers scattered in the sky. Golden lotuses surged out of the ground. In addition, there was also purple chi 30,000 miles from the east, mighty and mighty. When all kinds of strange phenomena appeared, the giant tree's voice was heard, and it instantly fell into every corner of the world. I am Jianmu, and from today onwards I will establish the Eldar. All plants in the world that have spiritual intelligence will be Eldar. As soon as it finished speaking, the world shook. The vast purple chi bombarded down, and it directly raised Jianmu's aura. When he broke through, he had just stepped into the ranks of the first-level immortal. But now, with the infusion of the purple chi, he directly stabilized at the first-level immortal, and the remaining power kept rising. Second-level immortal. Third-level immortal. Boom! Finally, there was an earth-shattering sound, and a long river of laws surged. Jianmu successfully broke the shackles of the lower 3 levels of True Immortal, and not only did he step into the middle 3 levels of True Immortal, but he also completely stabilized at the 4th level of True Immortal. At the same time, the plants in the world seemed to be nourished in different ways. Some of the more powerful plants even directly gave birth to spiritual intelligence and became members of the Eldar. As the first emperor of the Eldar, Jianmu also felt the changes in the Eldar in the world. There was naturally no need to say much about the joy in his heart. For him, breaking through to the true immortal, establishing the Eldar, and the birth of other Eldar, it could be said that it was 3 consecutive blessings. At this time, in the mountain range where Jianmu was located, there was also a large number of plants that gave birth to spiritual intelligence. The moment these plants gave birth to spiritual intelligence, their branches and leaves swayed, as if they were on a pilgrimage. Greetings, Ling Huang! Neat and uniform voices sounded in the mountain range. The Eldar born in the world all did the same thing. On the same day, the name of Ling Huang and Jianmu completely spread out, and all the living beings in the world remembered it. Eldar! Ling Huang, Jianmu! On the mountain peak, Feng took a few deep breaths. When the other party had ascended to immortality, the vast aura that had spread out made him have the urge to prostrate himself in worship. For the first time, Feng truly felt how big the gap between a true immortal and a celestial was. In front of that power, he felt as if he was nothing more than an ant. However, in addition to the influence of Jianmu's tribulation to become an immortal, the other party establishing the Eldar and the subsequent fluctuations also made Feng have some other thoughts in his heart. Chapter 773. Is this an Eldar? Feng looked not far in front of him. There was a stalk of dark green grass swaying in the wind. It was a powerful thought. It rose from the grass, making it impossible for people to ignore it. Before the Eldar was truly born, he did not understand what an Eldar was. But with the establishment of the Eldar, Fong understood now. What kind of living being could be classified as an Eldar? Eldar, there are so many plants in the world. If all the plants that have gained sentience can be classified as the spirit race, then the number of spirit race is a bit too much. Fong looked at the grass and did not move, being stared at by him. The green grass that had just gained sentience was also trembling. As an Eldar that had just been born, the strength of this grass was only at the true martial realm. In terms of strength, it was completely at the bottom of the world. At this moment, being stared at by a powerful expert, it could be imagined how much pressure it was under. Just as the green grass was shivering, a voice rang out. Fong slowly retracted his gaze. He did not have the intention to attack a true martial realm Eldar. In his eyes, a true martial realm Eldar was no different from an ant. Moreover, an Eldar had just become an immortal. It was not a wise choice to rashly attack an Eldar. If he angered the Eldar Emperor, Fong did not have the confidence to contend against him. This time, Ling Huang's tribulation to become an immortal has allowed me to see the path ahead. It's just that walking the physical body saint system will cause lightning tribulation to descend when becoming an immortal. If the physical body is not strong enough, the success rate of the tribulation will be much lower. It seems that I need to think of a way to temper my physical body. Feng's expression changed. As the first living being born in the world, he was qualified to see the imprints of the world. The scene of Jianmu's tribulation had already been recorded by the world. So, Fong could also take this opportunity to comprehend the mysteries of the other party's tribulation to become an immortal. It could be said that Jianmu's ascension to immortality had opened a door for the other living beings. Before the first living being became an immortal, true immortality was like a locked door to them. He wanted to open the door and comprehend the mysteries within, but he couldn't find the key. Now Jianmu had become an immortal. It was equivalent to opening the lock on the door and helping them open the door. In this way, the difficulty of ascending to immortality in the future would be greatly reduced. Fong already had a rough idea of what he should do in the future. Ever since he understood the physical establishing sage system, he had never thought of walking down the path of nomological Tao validation. After all, in terms of strength, living beings who walk the path of physical sanctification would be much more powerful than those who walk the path of nomological Tao verification. In this world, all the plants and trees that are born with sentience belong to the Eldar. However, ever since I was born, I have been the only one who has existed. In comparison, I am much lonelier. When Fong thought of Eldar, he sighed in his heart. Ever since he was born, he had traveled a lot between heaven and earth. However, other than when he was just born and saw Qin Shujian who was similar to him, he had never seen another living being that looked exactly like him. If Eldar didn't appear, it would be fine. But with the appearance of Eldar, Feng's heart also had some slight changes. Since Eldar can be born, why don't I create a human race? But even if I create a human race, what's the use? In the end, there will only be me. Unless there can be other humans born. It was undoubtedly a difficult thing for other humans to be born. Fong didn't have any other ideas at the moment. When this idea was born in his mind, there was a voice in the dark telling him that this was the right thing to do. However, what exactly should he do? Fong didn't know. For a moment, he sat down on the peak of the mountain and fell into deep thought. Spring went and autumn came. A year passed, but Fong still sat there without moving. Finally, his absent-minded eyes gradually focused, and his sitting body finally stood up. His body shook slightly. All the filth on his body dissipated. Sigh! A long sigh came from Feng's mouth. After thinking hard for a year, he still couldn't think of a way to give birth to more humans. Fong also understood. If he continued to sit there, not to mention a year, even if 10 years or 100 years, there wouldn't be any results. Therefore, he didn't plan to waste any more time here. He stood up from the peak of the mountain. Feng directly flew into the sky and left. If he couldn't find a way to create humans here, then he would look at another place. Since the premonition in the dark told him that it was right, then his idea must not be wrong. He didn't succeed now. He could only say that he didn't find the right method. In the remaining time, Feng walked around the mountains and rivers, silently comprehending the heaven and earth. While increasing his own strength, he also looked for a way to create humans. In the inner hall of the heavenly palace, on the throne, Qin Shujian paid close attention to the changes in the inner world. Whether it was Jianmu's tribulation to become an immortal or the subsequent changes, none of it escaped his eyes and ears. Among them, more of his attention fell on Feng. Perhaps it was because he was also a human. Qin Shujian paid more attention to Feng, who was also a human. From Feng's every move, he was almost certain that it was about time for the human race in the inner world to be officially born. They hadn't been born yet. It was only a matter of time. The simplest way for the human race to be born is to mold the earth to create humans, but I still can't interfere too much with the specifics. Looking at the confused Feng in the inner world, Qin Shujian resisted the urge to give some pointers. The heaven and earth revolved. Naturally, there was a pattern. If he interfered without permission, it would have the intention of spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm. Moreover, if he personally gave pointers, even if Feng created the human race in the future, then the benefits he would receive wouldn't be as much as before. This was the opportunity to be the first human in the world. Qin Shujian also didn't want to spoil it. Withdrawing his consciousness from his inner world, he focused his attention on himself. In more than a year, I have comprehended all the laws of the true immortals born in the myriad races. The number of law seeds in the inner world has also increased by almost 1,000. In a short period of time, the number of true immortals born in the myriad races has almost reached the limit. If I want to break this limit, I will need a certain amount of time. Breaking through to the true immortal realm wasn't just about having enough resources, but also the comprehension of laws. The fact that the myriad races could produce more than 1,000 true immortals had completely exceeded Qin Shujian's expectations. If there were more in the future, the difficulty of the laws would increase greatly. Therefore, to him, he had already harvested most of the wool that could be harvested. The remaining matters were waiting for the seeds to take root and sprout. Chapter 774. In the Outer Realm. There was a floating continent. There was a black shadow crawling on the continent. From afar, it emitted an aura that made one's heart palpitate. So many void demons! When Chao Hong looked at the floating continent, his eyes were also filled with shock. Beside him, it was a few players in the team. After exploring the outer realm for so long, other than some stars, we have never encountered any land. Could this be the base camp of the void demons? Lu Qinghong's expression was also nervous. The base camp of the void demons meant that there were a large number of powerful void demons. By relying on their own strength, they would be able to do so. If they were discovered, they would definitely die. However, in addition to being nervous, Lu Qinghong was also excited. According to the mission issued by the Heavenly Court, if we can find the base camp of the void demons, we will be rewarded with 10,000 true immortal merit points. Hearing that, the other players also had excited expressions on their faces. 10,000 true immortal merit points. Even if it was divided among several people, everyone would be able to get a lot. With such a number of true immortal merit points, it was enough for them to raise their realm to the celestial realm, and it was not as simple as an ordinary celestial realm. Chao Hong swallowed his saliva, then looked at the others and said, "Leave a mark, and then remember the landmarks. Let's retreat." "All right." Several players nodded. Then, someone began to leave his mark in the void, as well as record the current landmarks. Although the outer realm was similar everywhere. But after leaving the mark, it would not be difficult to distinguish it in the future. While talking, Chao Hong also left his mark on the spot, as well as the landmarks. Everyone's mark and landmarks were somewhat different. Multiple personal records. The purpose was to not make any mistakes. Moreover, even if a mark was discovered by the void demons and then erased, they could rely on the other marks to find this place again. To be honest, Chao Hong himself did not expect that just by exploring the outer realm to see if there was a chance to kill some outer realm demons, he would accidentally encounter the enemy's base camp. Even if he was not completely sure now. But he knew. Even if the continent in front of him was not the base camp of the void demons, it was definitely an important place. If he went back and sold the information to the Heavenly Court, there would be many benefits. On the mainland, 2 beams of light suddenly appeared on the throne that was like a black shadow. Immediately, they cut through the void and looked outside the continent. "A little bug is coming!" Yorwei's cold voice resounded in the hall. His tone was cold. There was no trace of emotion in it. He hadn't thought that someone would still be able to evade the Maxiaro clan's defenses and find their way here. Just now, if the other party had not sent out a weak wave of energy, even Yelvis almost didn't discover it. At this moment, Chao Hong had just left the coordinates in the void. All of a sudden, he felt a terrifying wave of energy. That wave of energy caused his heart to tremble. Chao Hong was not the only one. Everyone else was trembling as well. The space around them froze and froze them in place. The next moment, a huge hand shattered the void. Chao Hong and the others didn't even have time to resist before they were easily destroyed by this force. Along with the destroyed ones. And the marks they left behind. After simply wiping out Chao Hong and the others, Yelvis slowly withdrew his palm. "Done?" Longfellow also woke up from absorbing the energy of the void. Yelvis's expression was indifferent. "It's done. But a few ants of the god martial arts realm were able to sneak into our clan. The clansmen of those strongholds are at fault. If we don't punish them, it won't be enough to convince the masses. Do what you think should be done." Longfellow shook his head. Even if Yelvis killed all those demons of the void, he wouldn't object. No matter how many demons there were, they were no different from ants in his eyes. As for saying that they were of the same clan, that was even more ridiculous. At the level of the Demon Emperor, the so-called friendship of the same clan had already been indifferent to the extreme. Countless years of precipitation. Many of his emotions had completely disappeared. So, if Yelvis wanted to kill them, Longfellow wouldn't stop him because there was no need. Yes. Yelvis didn't talk much about this topic. Instead, he changed the topic and said, "Have you noticed that the creatures of the vast 1,000 domains also seem to have the trait of being immortal? As early as in the battle when the barrier between heaven and earth was opened in the vast 1,000 domains, Ben Huang killed many perfected immortals. However, in the second battle, Ben Huang encountered those perfected immortals who had been killed. Is it possible that you've mistaken them for someone else?" Longfellow frowned. Immortal and indestructible. Even the Demon Emperor couldn't be immortal and indestructible. What qualifications did some Demon King-level perfected immortals have to be immortal and indestructible? Yelvis said. "It's impossible to mistake them for someone else. You should understand that at our level, even the slightest change can't be hidden from Ben Huang's eyes. Moreover, the few ants that Ben Huang killed just now didn't leave behind their corpses. Even the spiritual deity couldn't capture them. It was as if there was some mysterious power protecting them." Hearing this, Longfellow's expression immediately became solemn. The protection of a mysterious power. An existence that could snatch the spiritual deity from Yelvis's hands was probably at least at the Demon Emperor level. Although the other party didn't reveal his strength. However, in Longfellow's opinion, even if Yelvis's strength hadn't broken through to the Demon Emperor level, it wasn't much different. Could it be that the Emperor of Heaven left some life-saving means on the creatures of the vast 1,000 domains? The so-called immortal and indestructible is actually taking away the spiritual deity at the moment of their death. As long as the spiritual deity isn't destroyed, The creatures whose physical bodies are destroyed can be restored. Longfellow calmly analyzed. Although he didn't understand the characteristics of the players and the existence of the investiture of the gods, he could still speculate some things from Yelvis's words. After all, not everyone could be immortal and indestructible. In the vast void, only the demons of the demon abyss were qualified to be immortal and indestructible. Moreover, that kind of immortality wasn't absolute. If they met their nemesis, they would still die. The demons of the demon abyss aren't really immortal and indestructible. There should be some kind of protective means left on these people by some expert. Right now, the strongest person in the vast thousand domains is the Emperor of Heaven, so there shouldn't be any mistake. You can't really kill them, maybe because there isn't a suitable way. In the end, Longfellow added another sentence. Find a suitable way. The so-called immortal and indestructible would no longer exist. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.